Good. Alan, are you ready? Sean, are you ready to get started?
We're ready.
Okay. You guys ready? All right. So we'll go ahead and get started with our work meeting, and it's going to be the general plan. So hopefully we're getting very close to wrapping this up.
Yes.
All right.
How do you think?
Yeah.
Ready.
We had our last meeting went well, and
You'll answer that question just based on what you've seen.
we were kind of waiting. I think we were waiting for maps, and that was pretty close to everything, right?
We did. Run with it.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
I gotta step out.
We have what we consider to be pretty dang close to the final draft
Okay.
of the
Perfect.
document, including the maps. In this particular case, in the report, they're in 8.5 by 11. But I'm also going to leave you guys a set of the worded large ones so you can really see the details. Because I'd really like to take a peek at those and see if there's anything we need to tweak. We are, from my perspective, we are at the tweak phase. We've got the meat of this thing on paper. We feel pretty good about it in the context of the feedback we've got from town, the feedback we got from you guys. We've integrated all of that information as best we can here.
Okay.
This document probably isn't going to get everybody in town doing backflips on the highway, but I think it's pretty solid, and it came together with a lot of the general plan notions that have been discussed around town for a lot of years. It kind of transcends, from my perspective, some of the politics of the day, if you will, and that should be what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I want to say is this is the planned and unexciting cover.
Let me see.
Gorgeous. Love the color.
Where the
Okay,
flowers?
so here's the problem. We want to really do something fun with this cover, and so we're thinking we want to do a little contest. Offer it out to everybody in town. I want somebody to capture the essence of our little town in a photograph, and they'll win a prize. You haven't decided what it is yet. It's a mosquito abatement sun hat. I was a little bit jealous of that one just a minute ago. But so what do you think? We've got some photos. We've done a lot of fun things around town. But I think it would be really fun to just throw it out there, not forever, because we're trying to get this thing done.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
That's fine with me. You're not gonna.
Okay? Yeah?
You're not gonna see excitement from that.
I'll allow it.
Sure.
I gotta come up with a really big prize to get somebody really excited about this.
We do have some art. We do have some artists in town that might do very well with that.
Right there? So we're catering in for somebody? I love it. So anyway, I think we'll do that. We'll throw that back out on the webpage. If Missy will help us with that. And we'll make a big old announcement about it and see what comes back. Okay? And then we pass these out. There's always that risk when they start passing these out. When I do proposals, we pass these beautiful documents out, we're all proud of them, and everybody goes to the last page because they know that's where the fee schedule is.
So you left it off this one?
We've overspent on this one, we're not talking about it.
Okay. Perfect.
I think it does make sense to get you this copy, and then let's walk through all of the elements in summary. So we kept it organized the same way you've seen it the last little while. We were even discussing that 5 minutes ago in terms of how we put it together and the right orientation and those kinds of things. And I don't think there's any particular magic to that. But I think we've got the vision statement up front, just some of the instruments of the study. And then we jump right into the elements because someone was very clear with us about making this simple and readable and workable. And so I feel like we've worked pretty hard at that. At every turn, somebody's been telling me, stop writing. You're all done.
Which they're paying.
Yeah.
That's because we've been telling her.
He knows exactly how this went.
Sometimes when we write too much and it gets us in trouble.
Yeah. So, remind me again, who's got the environmental element?
That was myself.
Okay, so,
Ron, was
Yeah.
there any particular way you organized the elements in order, or did you just?
no, there isn't a particular way. We've done, most of them we've organized it like this. Your plan actually has two elements that are not normal in our general planning processes.
Are you telling us we're not normal?
The infrastructure ones.
First is not, where's the recorder? Where is that then? Oh, boy, now I'm gonna get fined. Okay, anyway. So, the infrastructure element is quite different than what is in a normal, general planning. We've talked about that a lot. And that sort of is at the tail end of things. There's probably a reasonable argument to make that the first element because there are aspects of that element that if we don't plan them reasonably well, the rest of the planning instruments become a little more challenging. And we've talked a fair amount about that. But just going back through in the order that we have them now, and I certainly would be open to discussion about that as you get, now that you've got the document, as we envision it going forward, you can help us with that. But anyway, we just provided some really baseline information about the climate and the general environment here. And I think that the real critical statement related to the environmental element is two specific things. We have a really special place here from an environmental perspective, and not just the town and all of that, but a really special place that does call to you a little bit in terms of some preservation. And so we've talked a little bit about that. I think we made mention of the efforts of some folks in our community to try to set aside some land. I think that's a great idea, and I said because I know everybody has their thoughts about that, but I put it in here. And you should read the piece that we talked about that. We're not necessarily saying this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, because in reality, there's legacy benefit to that kind of stuff, but there's not economic benefit from the perspective of the town. But it's super meaningful from my perspective. Not everything can be accounted for in dollars and cents. So that piece, I think, is a critical one. And then, we heard a lot about night skies and view preservation, those kinds of things. And I think we do want to talk about lower profile buildings in really special places around town. And we had a lot of conversation about night sky and how do you deal with that. And really what it comes down to is we want to encourage the possibility of night sky preservation. But we really need, when developments come online and are starting to think about what they want to be, we need to be out in front of them talking about, we think this is a great location and will really benefit your development. Think about lighting in a little different way and that type of conversation. I think that's more consistent with how things like that really get done. So that's sort of how we discuss that piece. Anything you'd like to add? Any questions about that?
No, not on that. We here on your things, I think we have some partial sentences that may need to be fixed, but no.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
Good.
go through it
No,
and
I'm-
fix that.
Yeah, we were
Good with that.
jamming,
Yeah.
even as late as today.
That's why it's a draft. Yeah.
Where it is, in fact, I'm looking at the night spec reservation, there is, the set aside areas for cooperation and development interests is really a separate concept. There's still some things to tweak there. The maps that are associated with the environmental piece are we just provided an overall layout of the county, including the road trail system, just so you can get sort of oriented to mapping. The ownership map is part of that element. And it's pretty simple. There's sort of three major elements of ownership: private,
Mhm.
public, and corridors. And then we included, and this won't be valuable to everybody, but we included the soil identification areas for this. This is valuable to me and to development folks who are trying to figure out if they got to put helical piers underneath their structure because of collapsible clays or whatever
Yeah.
may be the case, and that kind of stuff. So we, typical to.
Ron, do we still need a key for that map?
We are going to need that. With those. We probably overdid it on the mapping stuff, but we're prejudiced towards maps.
I like maps.
That was a joke, folks. I didn't get a very good response out of you.
No.
We like maps.
like
Okay,
that.
it wasn't really a joke.
We
It was
like
really the
maps.
truth, but it was intended to
I
be
really
sarcasm.
like maps.
Okay, sorry. There you go. My second career in stand-up comedy is not going well.
No, you better stay an engineer.
This
Yeah.
whether it's be
Or just sit down.
private or
What's that?
You can have sit down.
Oh, see, there you go.
see, this is private.
So take a look at those, as I said, I'm providing them with a full-size set that
Well,
I think will leave with.
they're
this
moving
week.
along with it pretty good.
But I'd love you to take a look at those, because I don't know what your eyes do, but my 6-year-old eyes are not super great at this size. And when we publish this final, these maps will be 1117 embedded in the document. So they'll be twice as big as they are here.
Yeah.
And they'll just be folded in. Okay. One of the sort of biggies, land use element. We talk about various ways to sort of get to a reasonable commercial corridor using the existing ordinances that you have. And how to plan a little bit ahead for that. Cameron and I had a fairly lengthy conversation one of the nights recently about floodplain management. I could have written a whole bunch more about that because it's one of my personal interests. But we left it to one sentence. Building in floodplain and drainage areas needs to be managed through the development of a community-wide floodplain and drainage master plan. You all right with that, Chris? So.
We don't have that yet though, do we?
We do not. So that's a recommendation that's just going to have to come back around.
So
But
we're
the
gonna have to
essence of our discussion was, we've already created some issues for ourselves, just in terms of our land use programming as it relates to floodplain, because we've actually destroyed a number of natural drainages without actually providing for the drainage itself. We talked a little bit about the issues I have at Sierra Bell subdivision, and how happy that developer was when I told him I was thinking about condemning a couple of his lots before he got started. Love that conversation. Really enjoyed that. But the point is, we got to stop the train. We got to stop that sort of activity from occurring through town. And have the developments be accountable for the drainage so that we aren't the ones who end up getting called in the 2 a.m. with the water in the basement, because
Not a,
developers don't get those calls, the town does. Sorry?
Chris gets those calls.
Chris gets those calls. Oh, well, why am I worried about it?
We don't care. Chris is here.
But really, that's just one piece of the land use part. We talk about the smaller neighborhood commercial corridor for the center of town. It's sort of been a thing that we've chased probably from the very first open house, actually. And then balancing reasonable development on both the east and the west side, and I know there's big time varying opinions about what that looks like. But with the funding related to the shuttle, I think we have a really nice opportunity to do something there. My initial gut reaction would be, put that on the west side. If we're going to really manage traffic through town and through the rest of the canyon, let's park a few folks outside of the canyon. That's while we're at it. If we, and I'm going to say this in this terminology, if we're stuck with a big parking lot, let's put it in a reasonable spot, and let's complement it with some nice complementary retail commercials. See if you can't benefit from a little bit of sales tax as people are passing through. So I know that's not the most popular thing to be talking about, a big parking lot somewhere. But we've actually identified a few spots where we can hide it away, and they're coming at us already, as you know. They actually are saying they really like 2 locations. And I think I'd be much more inclined to do 1.
So, my understanding was they wanted 2 locations, but one was going to be like a park and ride, and the other one was just going to be a stop. Is that not correct?
So what I have heard most recently is 2 essentially parking rides.
Okay.
So they're going to have a number of stops. The Marriott folks have already offered their parking lot as a stop. And there's a number of entities that are doing that up the canyon.
Yes.
So those are going to almost happen out of matter-of-factly. But I think what the county and the planning folks are looking at is a couple of park your car, leave it someplace, and then go off on your adventures and come back and pick it up.
That's honestly, that's the only way I see a village commercial working well in Virgin, is if that happens.
Sorry?
That's the only way I see the small scale village commercial that we've been talking about working, is if it includes one of those parking lots.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta have something that's gonna bring foot traffic.
Yeah, you got to have foot traffic there. Without that foot traffic, it's just not going to be feasible.
So we have suggested that we have you guys, we put you guys to work on looking at the ordinances relating to the commercial zones. And we've done something a little different here with the mapping, and you'll see that also. This is goofy engineer instead of goofy planner dude. Normally, in general plan, what you see is a recommendation. You show just a big block of some color, and it says commercial corridor. And everybody's left to sort of wonder how big it is, how wide it is, whatever. And that's done intentionally because it fills in by development. But philosophically, we thought the parcels were already somewhat nicely laid out. And so we showed you a map that actually identifies the commercial corridor by parcel, not by some 3D swap. So take a look at that. That's a little different twist on what we normally do in a planning instrument. See what you make of that. There's also going to be some follow-up discussion if it's adopted similar to how we have it here in terms of some of the language in the commercial ordinances and even the highway resort zones, we'll be looking at doing some tweaking there to accommodate some of the commercial vision that is coming out of the, if you will, the neighborhood commercial idea. That all plays back to walkable community. And, we talk about the fact that nobody can get across SR9, not only in the land use element, we can come back to it in the circulation element from a transportation perspective. But on the land use side, we're really trying to talk about how does a pedestrian get from the south side to the north side of town if they were ever to choose to do so.
Yeah.
Fast.
Aside from taking their life in their own hands and running their 3-year-old across the street or whatever that looks like. Anything you want to add to that? We do talk about trying to mitigate negative impacts on the existing community as it relates to land use. I think the details of that come back into the plan a little more in some of the other elements as well. But take a look at that and see what you think. I had some Johnny come lately conversations with a few folks around town about trying to envision something related to the south side, meaning the south side of the river. We could make that into a fairly complex discussion. Suffice it to say, there's zoning associated with those areas. The conservation land area is largely on that side. There's all sorts of problems associated with infrastructure development there, none of which we're going to overcome with the general plan. We're just simply throwing it out there in terms of some of the issues that we have. So I just felt like I needed to at least surface the conversation at the general planning level and let you guys kind of stew on that a little bit. Floodplain again, and then the mapping. We've tried to make this accurate to even the latest land use, and I'm sure we have failed. So we're going to need your help on that part of it. There's the first map that you see behind the land use element is just the major zoning corridors. The second one is the goofy map that I was just telling you about, where we've actually broken it out by parcel. And so it looks a little chunky compared to normal planning systems. But I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of what we're trying to envision relative to what we want the commercial corridor to be like. We talked a fair amount about offering against the residential areas. The thought comes immediately to mind. I'm jumping to housing, but it's a concept that kind of weaves its way through several of these elements. We like the idea of the notion of some paving right behind the commercial corridor, especially if the corridor for the commercial side stays at a low profile. And then you've got shared parking for the commercial, even in sort of a twisted sort of a parking right sort of thing, which is sort of where you were going with, can we combine those? And we're thinking through that. But also, if you do higher density residential right behind that and use the parking area as a buffer, it's a shared use. And you're not trafficking all the way through the streets and putting parking meters on dirt areas around town. I don't know anywhere where that has occurred. I just threw that out as something that maybe is the greatest idea that I've ever seen.
Now that was funny. That was funny.
Okay.
Okay. You get better.
Okay. All right. So that's sort of one of the concepts sort of used between that, and it actually integrates into the housing element as well. So we got to find a place for the people that make more money than the typical engineer, so that they can live in this town. Okay, that was another one, and that didn't go over
It's
well.
not.
Okay, bottom line is affordable housing and discussion about providing some affordable housing was a big issue. It came up at every meeting a lot. And I think the town as a whole values that for the quality of life here. And I think that's a very justifiable discussion and very, very hot topic in that regard. So we really have tried to plan around the idea of, if our infrastructure can't currently support that, what does it look like to be able to support it? And the reality is, we have the technology to do higher density residential with the sewer and water infrastructures and the technology that's already available. It just comes at a little higher cost. And so we're still trying to figure out how to bring a little bit more traditional infrastructure services into the town. And that discussion is going to carry well past the general plan. But it's embedded in several of these elements, and we make some suggestions for how we might go about doing that. But it's going to be critical, in my opinion, if we're really going to achieve lower cost, higher density residential. And I think it's something that really resonated through town. So dive into that one and tell me what you think. We were just brave enough to touch on the notion of short-term rentals. Yeah, he's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. That's your job, not mine, okay? The circulation element is really about the transportation, but it's not just the road. We're really talking about a connected trail system and interconnected neighborhoods. So that's a lot of what we talk about in terms of the goals that we're putting out there in terms of identifying how we accomplish that. Am I making him share one? It's frightening. He's gonna have to review this. It's terrifying. Anyway. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about the shuttle system here, about Sheep Ridge Road improvements that are kind of coming down the pipeline from the county, what that may mean, and then again, just some interconnected trail systems and so forth related to that. And ultimately, the target that we wanted to hit was the notion of walkable and scalable for these portions of our town. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, should we talk about parking lots and the shuttle system as well? We add something about that or not?
So all we've actually said on the shuttle system and the circulation piece is support the countywide initiative to provide shuttle systems throughout, through Virgin to Springdale, creating additional opportunities for visitors to stay in town and spend their dollars.
Although down
And we can strike some of that because that seems way too touristy, but
on the goal portion, we talked about.
Yeah, we do.
Talked about parking lots like that, or the shuttle stops.
So, and again, there's still a fair amount of discussion to be had relative to that. My take on it is if we buy into the notion of participating in the shuttle thing, we ought to somehow build around it, as I said earlier, and have some benefit to the town related to that.
So you have this map here on the housing density one. Is this like the current housing density in those areas?
That's all it
Okay.
is. It's current. It has nothing to do with future densities because we're really trying to develop the higher densities.
You're just showing us what it currently looks like.
Just gives you a feel for where we are today.
Okay.
Frankly, from that perspective, we included that map because launching from today, you sort of have to think more about the buffers and some of the things that really come into play in terms of bringing some commercial in terms of bringing some higher density residential. They won't look what we have today for the most part.
This is some nice paper.
The economic element, it really just simply talks about, we have a nice stable local economy, but it's not really providing a lot of revenue for the betterment of the lifestyles of the folks who live here. And so there's a dark side to that as well, right? You start bringing some of that commercial retail stuff in. We're not putting the town on sale, is my perspective about it. We want to maintain the quality of life, balance it with some reasonable economic growth that centers around commercial and public development.
So Rod, we have about 25 minutes left. So if we want to get through the whole thing,
We are almost there.
are we almost there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to end way early.
That's nice. I thought we were still on circulation, which is only number 3.
I just flew through the element.
He's
Okay.
he's kind of skipping the room, I think.
Okay.
Take more time on that.
No. Nope.
He's kind of skipping.
I didn't hear you go over the circulation one, so I apologize.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that was when you're talking about the park and ride.
yeah. Yeah, the park and ride, the shuttle system, Sheep Ridge Road, that's the circulation. Who has that?
Alan,
Okay.
Do I have that one?
you do. You have circulation and
It
infrastructure.
deals with roads, you've got it.
Who has housing? That, okay. Okay, so that one, take a really good look at that. I think it's a nice piece, and it's really important in terms of what we've discussed, and if we didn't capture it in writing, I need your help. We need your
Yeah.
help.
Well, I read the other that you gave me on that, and it looks really nice. It's good, so, yeah.
Good, okay, good. And yeah, there were some comments that came out of one of our last meetings as well that have added some meat to that one as well. Okay, so the last one is the infrastructure element. Has had considerable discussion throughout town from the first open house right to the last one. It sort of is, it's sort of at the baseline of everything else that we want to do. From my perspective, we did try to provide some detail here so that there's some notion of how we can move forward with things. The sewer system is probably the key element there. We make some suggestions as to how we might envision a community-wide sewer system, highlighting specifically the commercial areas, and frankly leaving the residential areas in traditional septic, and actually even extending that kind of program into other residential areas. Part of the bite that we have on that one is the agreement we have with Washington County Water Conservancy District over the total number of connections and how they want to play that. Our mayor has been pretty proactive with Washington County Water Conservancy District about talking about the problems that their program is creating for us. I think we're in a decent politic right now as they're planning some leadership transition and some things that way where we might get their ear a little bit. And so I've been really encouraged by some of the discussions that have already taken place related to that, and hoping that we can get the agreement that we have is workable. It just has some limitations that we're going to be bumping into, and that's not a bad thing. What it's forcing us to do is get a little more creative about our infrastructure going forward, so that we're not imposing too heavy of a load, and load's the right word when it comes to sewer systems on our environment. So we sort of have a built-in incentive to try to figure that one out, well beyond the water agreement that we have with Washington County. We we do talk about how we go about creating a commercial corridor from an infrastructure perspective here. What we want to do ultimately with some road systems. We haven't provided you with a road system master plan, but we're saying, gosh, we ought to connect some things here and there to try to provide some continuity with the neighborhoods. It doesn't require everybody to drop down to the highway, go down the highway a little ways and turn back up the road or whatever. We like the idea of being able to get through the neighborhoods without that kind of a circulation pattern. The other piece that I think is really important related to infrastructure and specific has to do with how it connects to the housing, the commercial land use, and how we as a town and really need to come together as a whole to sort of envision how that whole process will play out. Let me give you some specific examples that were sort of hot topics. We have fixed income, retired folks, they have a nice place, they have a nice life, everything is good, and we come along and say, oh gee whiz, the town really needs to do a traditional sewer system. We'd sure love to have you participate in the cost of it. Yeah. So really what we've come back with is the folks that are most likely going to be able to help us build infrastructure are the development interests that are most likely to benefit from the location here in town. And so we want to leverage that relationship to develop the infrastructure that we really need through town. And that's essentially the concept. That's what we're talking about in terms of this element. And again, we get into a little bit more detail in terms of water and sewer in specific. But the same notion applies, as we discussed earlier, in the environmental element related to storm drainage. Our systems here are mostly natural systems. Some of the development is going to have to carry some of the economic impact of conveying drainage waters through our town, safely through our town. And that's just the reality of what has got to happen. So that's sort of the overall notion behind the infrastructure element. So for your purposes, read through this. What general planning, and Heath could talk to this even better than I can, it really talks to intent. When somebody comes into you and wants to do development and they're looking at your general plan and they're saying, but the intent of your general plan, that's a tough discussion if we haven't gotten it right. Because it does, is that a fair statement, Pete?
Yeah.
So really, we're talking about the broader vision. What is our intentions? What is our baseline? What is our vision? And do we have enough meat in this that we can say to a developer that really is wanting to do something that really is juxtaposition different than really what we had envisioned? Do we have enough meat in our general plan to say, not consistent with the intent of our general plan, but you can take that down the road a couple miles, or whatever the case is. It's a general plan that should really ease that conversation as opposed to make it harder to have. Any comments you'd like to add, Heath, related to that?
No, the more detail that you can have and the less generality and general plan, the better you are at implementing it in your land use decisions. However, a general plan is supposed to be general, so it's a very fine line in what he's trying to accomplish here. So just looking at this, I think we've got a good start.
All right.
Does anyone have any questions,
Yeah.
real quick?
So I know you're seeing the document as
Yeah.
a package for the first time. Our intent is really to keep moving this along. So we want to give you some time to absorb it, to feedback to us. But we also are looking at wanting to get your comments, a recommendation in process, and move this to the town council to start taking pieces of the meat out of my hand.
Alan, do you have a question?
No.
Okay, just real quick, now, in the last one, of course, we had all the pre-information. Is that still coming? The
So-
information about,
Yeah, go tell them kind of.
yeah, what have you got done?
Because we're keeping the meat of the document simple, but there's a pile of paper about that high that we're gonna still simmer down, and we're gonna throw it in the appendix.
Okay.
So if you're Sean and you really wanna dive into that kind of stuff, you get to. And it's still in one
So
document.
excited.
If you
Yeah.
can't get to sleep at night, just go ahead and open that up, and start reading.
So.
If you're Cameron, you don't care.
Yeah.
Go in the
Well,
shredder.
and really, it's a document that should just sort of live, sort of with the vision. And so the notion of keeping it simple is really a beneficial idea. But being able to identify sort of more of what's going on around town in terms of the environmental nature of things and environmental sensitivities, we've got a lot of that.
Yeah.
We've done a ton of research on a lot of that, but it's not going to make it into the front end general plan.
Oh, good. It's not gonna be on each element. This is, it's gonna be like this, and that'll be in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
What
like
you
that.
see is really, from our perspective, the meat of the document. We don't intend to do a whole lot more with this other than receive your comments, receive these comments, try to get clarification where he feels we need it, because that's going to be a really important trigger point for us. Because if we can't defend our general plan, we're in trouble.
Are there any other maps you're intending on,
There are a whole bunch of additional maps as well.
even more?
Yeah.
One quick question on the flood zone maps. Was this the most recent? Because I know that there's been changes in the flood zoning. I know because my dad was in there and he got a letter recently that says he's not in there. So is this the most recent, or is this as close as you're gonna get
Okay, so
now?
this is fairly recent.
And we'll update it later.
This one is fairly recent. The floodplain thing is gonna be under constant change, more than probably any other map in this document. It probably will be, not up to date, a week after it gets adopted. But that's not a bad thing. Because having some vigilance related to the floodplain and how we're managing developments through the floodplain corridors, as I said, is weaved throughout this entire document. And it's really important to us from a liability and risk perspective and just general quality of life.
Do you have the ability to do on this land ownership map? Two things on this. Like the municipal land, the land that the town owns.
Oh, yes.
You put that on there. But then, is there ability to do percentages with the software you have to
It's
figure out?
easy to do.
Okay, because that would be way cool to see
Yeah.
the percentages
Yes,
comparatively.
yeah. Yeah, so a lot of this is GIS formatted mapping
Yeah.
that allows us to do a lot of crazy statistical stuff. Again, that's not typical of a general plan, but you got us, and it sort of came with the territory.
On your streets map, the proposed local roads, were those just ideas that were submitted during the open houses
Yeah.
mostly?
Some of those, and some of those are just my view of where does it make sense to sort of.
As the
connect
engineer.
roads. And I did some connecting earlier on and had some folks say, do you have any idea what you drew that line across? That might have been you. So I was, really the non-engineer in me was drawing lines through washes and all sorts of crazy places and just to provide some connectivity. The other comment related to that is we did talk a little bit about Pocket Hill Road. We're still saying, well, wouldn't it be nice if that was just really a neighborhood road? And how do you accomplish that? Do you put a giant cul-de-sac at the end of it? How do you manage that? Because I think
Put stop
it
signs.
still shows up on Google as sort of one of the ways to get to Kolob, and I'm not loving that. And I'm sure the neighborhood isn't either.
Well, contact Google.
Didn't you and I talked about that? Didn't you have a way?
You can contact Google. That's one thing. You can actually contact Google
Yeah.
and tell them that they're routing stuff through a neighborhood, and they will change it on their system.
Oh, so.
That's one
I'm just
way.
using that as a negative example to
Yeah.
enforce the notion that I wanted to be a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And even on this map, you have it as a minor collector street.
Right.
Where,
Right? That's actually what it's classified.
yeah,
Yeah.
where the actual the new road isn't classified as that, so.
Yeah, that's something we need to get changed.
Yeah,
So even that one we need to.
yeah, one page.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Gene, Alan, Keith?
Your water lines one, those is what's existing now. Do you have a proposed one as well that will go with that?
We have a proposed one, we went back and forth in terms of whether we wanted to show that in this document.
Or just maybe?
Our thought was we're gonna incorporate, we're gonna pull that from the water, master plan and drop it.
Yeah, I don't know that it needs to be in here.
We could actually change it, we could show the existing one so everybody knows where we started, and maybe show the future one as part of the study. It probably makes a little more sense that way.
Okay.
Boy, we got a lot of 6-inch. Alan?
I don't know if it needs to be in the master plan or not, but it would be nice to have some information at the office that you can go into to see present and proposed future on those water lines.
No, actually, we'll do what we can for the general plan, but I think we can provide large-scale maps that you can hang on the wall on all of those infrastructure. They're essentially created. It's not an additional effort. And that might be nice for people just to be able to see sort of what the idea is going forward on just a skeletal map. I really like that. Yeah, you got that. Okay, so just take a minute and let's talk schedule.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question, is are we still on schedule? When we talked at our last meeting, we talked about having this prepared for next month for the public hearing and then recommendation for next month. Are we still good with that?
We're good,
Okay.
but I think I want you guys to jump into this. We're gonna fix
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah, there's some minor
grammar
stuff.
and goofy stuff that I even read through earlier today. I'm like, oh, okay. Some of that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of that that we'll clean up. But for your purposes, have we captured the essence of the comments from the community? Are we saying the right things from the perspective of intent? That kind of level.
Yeah,
I want you to have the time to do that.
mhm.
Yeah.
So if we end up pushing back some of the discussion at the town council level a little bit, I don't know that that's a crisis.
Yeah.
part of the timetable related to that had to do with the election timetables and stuff, and that's not where we started when we really jumped into this.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to cut you guys short on giving us more feedback if you want to do that.
No, I think if we take the next
When do you need
1 or
feedback?
2 weeks, the next 2 weeks, and then I will follow up and make sure in 2 weeks.
So in order to have this on the,
As a public hearing.
As a public hearing.
2 weeks.
yeah.
So the next town council meeting is documents right now.
Yes.
So we need to have a public hearing here
Prior to
and recommend it.
So 10 days before, where's my calendar?
So, yeah.
All right, it's the 11th today.
So,
In 2 weeks, so if we had this 10 days, that's not soon enough. We'd have to have this back to you in a week, by the end of next week.
Well, what about just doing the public
I
hearing
think that's-
at your regularly scheduled meeting next time?
That's what we're saying. We would need
so we
to,
have to publish, we have to have a draft of the plan that we're gonna have a public hearing on
The-
10 days in advance of our August 8th meeting.
which is pretty much right after
Right after
council meeting. Yeah.
Does that feel okay?
So if we took the rest of this week and then if we had next week to look over this, got you all recommendations back by the 20th to you, that would give you 1 week to finish it up. Is that doable or?
Yeah. Well, you can put the pressure on us, we want you to have the time.
No, well, that's,
We'll,
I think that'd be adequate time. I mean, the sooner the better for us, of course, but the 20th would give 1 weekend and a whole week, so.
Won't matter, you put it off the last day anyway.
Could we get an electronic copy?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an electronic copy would be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yep.
for that.
Yeah.
We'll just send it to everybody. We'll just send it electronic to everybody.
Okay. So we need it done by the 20th,
Yeah.
July
We got the
20th,
date.
okay?
And I want you to know, Rod, you're a very popular man, because you show up and the whole room fills up.
It was empty when I turned around last night.
I know, you come and everyone's here.
These people didn't come to me.
Yeah, I think they did.
I'm pretty sure they did. Help me feel better about it.
They didn't come for your stand-up routine, but I think they did come for you.
Fair enough.
All right, is there anything else, Rod, that you need from us?
Got it.
All right,
Tomorrow, like, this evening to this evening.
yeah, we can work with our paper copy until we get that, but.
So are we gonna try and do anything for the council, or are they just gonna look at it?
I think they're just waiting for our recommendation now.
So they won't bother it this week?
Oh, no.
I don't
They'll
think
have
so.
it- They'll have it in their August meeting.
Okay.
I mean, if they want to look it
Well, I'm
over,
sure they're
I'm sure
looking
that
at it.
they can have it, or, but I don't. Anything else? All right, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll move into our regular meeting. Thank you, Rod.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give Misty this set of all the drawings that you got in your packet and your
Perfect. Thank you. Well, he stopped texting me. So does that mean he had a kid?
Probably means they are induced.
I don't know.
My daughter is
He said she's dilated to a 7. They don't
As
just
long as it's
induce
not
that. That's
dissonant,
almost there.
not induced, epidural. probably do it.
Well, they waited too long.
Well, they may not.
It's
The
almost
first birth-
done.
First birth, they probably thinking she'll have plenty of time.
She probably said, oh, please give me one.
That's what my wife said. She said, "Oh, please." Not the first time, but the second time and the third time, she said, "I'm here. Let's get it now. Right now. Before the pushing starts. Let's get this done."
Yeah. After this happens, then I'm officially tied into the town and related to everybody. Up till now, it's just been binary. I hope so. But this will be the final
You're
time.
gonna get a quick synopsis of all the public hearings.
Yes. 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 I will. I will try to do my best at that.
These things slide you out.
They do. They do. I gotta get my drink. I got dry mouth already. Oh, those came from Dina.
You're not gonna like me. You're not gonna like me. I started going through that chapter. I gotta go.
Let me know when I get there. Just let me know. If you keep waiting for me to get there, when I get time. Yeah, just whenever you're ready, you let me know when I get
Okay,
somebody.
do we really want to do this? We're going to be
Okay.
plans are to continue as a small unit growth and will therefore regulate uses as follows. Discourage formula homes and businesses, encourage diversity of businesses. How can you do that and that? Limit diversity of use,
This is you, right?
small local businesses.
Do
Hi,
you have 6 more of these?
I'm gonna be one of you today.
What?
I'm gonna be one of you today.
Do what?
I'm gonna, oh. I'm gonna be one of you today. Is that okay?
Sean didn't drink his, you can still his.
Safer that way.
Just take that whole section out.
Has all the normal stuff.
No, that's your Gmail,
course, I bring the
so
same
we
thing.
need to put another one in there.
So I thought I did that. I can't remember how to do that.
Okay, so you'll just go into settings, and then you'll go into accounts and passwords, Gmail. And, oh, okay, so I see what's going on. You need to add an account. So you need to change that. So on here, it put in your Gmail instead of the town's Gmail. So if you want to, so now if you want to leave it that way, I'm good with that. Okay, this is your ID. Yeah, but it's not, when I told it to add an account, there you go, just click there. And if you don't remember your password, I'll just get it out of the town office. I think I can remember it. I think yours is easy. So yours is G. That's your email address. G Garati at
PC.
Yep, VPZ.
PPC.
And this is G Garati. VPZ. Let me look. I must have something's wrong then, because it should be there. And I'll send you. I'll
Somebody
shoot
should
you
have
an
called
email
me
to
like
the
2
other
weeks ago and killed the suspense. I was so worried that I didn't win.
Maybe it's just.
Not everybody wins the prize in the year.
Usually they stay on permanently, but you never know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were this year 11 duckies going down the fall.
They didn't make it at all.
Buckle in.
Yep.
Some of them decapitated, some of them drowned, you know.
Hey, Misty.
You were lucky.
Misty, do you have this thing going? Are we ready to start?
Do I get to
Or do I need to push a button?
copper bronze, my ducky, where?
Oh, you left it on? I thought you turned it off. Sorry.
I said, I think he's pushed enough buttons.
Okay.
It says your name. I can't remember off.
How many prizes did you get?
4 places.
Oh, really?
Well, last place we did, it was actually 5 because we get duct tape for the last.
All right, let's go ahead and get this meeting started.
Use the gavel.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Sean's not listening, so we gotta get him. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our regular meeting. All right, so any declarations of, or any conflicts of interest that need to be declared? Alan?
No.
Gene?
No.
Cameron? No. Dina?
No.
Sean? Okay. All right, so we'll move into our public hearing. Someone want to give us that motion?
Motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we'll move into our public hearing portion. This is the portion for the public to express any concerns or likes or dislikes about the items that we may be taking actions on tonight. We'll try to go in order, so if you wish to comment about more than one, if you would wait till it comes up. That way we can kind of keep things straight. And then after the public hearing, we're going to go back into our public meeting, and if you have concerns or comments that you would like to make on other items that are not in the public hearing agenda, that would be the time to make those comments. So, just to try to keep everything organized. So we'll start with A in the public hearing. And this is the ordinance, chapter 20, the commercial zone. This one is amending the commercial zone, expanding it a few blocks to provide more opportunity for people to create business. So this is moving it. Do you have the map, Misty? So this is moving it. Currently, it's from 700. So from 700 west, and it's going to be moving it to 150 west, which would be the road to the cemetery. So it would be extending it a few blocks to the east.
Now that's on both sides of the road, right?
Both sides of the road, yes, along the highway. So nothing else is changing about the commercial zone, still the same restrictions. If,
I have something to say that needs a zoning map.
okay, go ahead. Yes. All right, some notes.
Didn't that come through?
Are you waiting for the map?
I'm waiting for the map.
Okay, perfect. No, you're good. If you need the map, that's fine.
I have a copy of the map if I can find it.
No, it's different. You have a copy of the report.
Right over there.
Chapter 20.
Right there. Right in the middle of town, like up above Middle Street. Better? Yeah. That's in
The big white block is the cemetery.
Yes. Okay. So what you guys are proposing
Yes.
is to extend it from this street going west, from right now it's 700 west
Mhm.
going west, and you guys are going to move it to here.
Yes, ma'am.
So my comment or my question for you is why stop here? Because if, let's just say, for example, people come, they buy this land, they all zone it commercial, and you've got commercial all down here, and then you've got this land here, and then there's commercial, and then there's commercial. And so this place here becomes an island, and this is the park, right? And then there's Pocketville Road, that's commercial, then you got the park, then you got commercial. The only land in this whole section that would not be included is this. So why don't you just extend it from Pocketville Road instead of 150 West? why don't you go all the way to Poplarville and go west instead of 150 west, going west, because you leave a little island of two lots.
2 blocks. Well,
It's not 2 blocks,
3.
it's 2 parcels of land, and then there's a couple directly across the street.
You got some
So you've got
residential on
island.
that other side, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't, I mean, they wouldn't have to change if they didn't want to.
But you, and then right here, this is DeWitt's land that he wants to, he's come in several times about zoning commercial. And then this is just an island in the middle of commercial. It just makes no sense. So I just wondered why you don't just change it from 100 west to Poplar Road. That's my question.
Thank you, Gene.
That's my entire comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will be addressing these questions later on for those that are unfamiliar with the process. Just to help this go faster, we won't address each concern as it's raised.
My name's Patrick Bagley, and I'm one of those parcels of land. So I would like to include it in the rezoning.
In the center is what you're talking about, where she's pointing out.
Well, it's not being rezoned. They're gonna be
Yeah.
That's the distinction. The ordinance doesn't, it amends the, our ordinance to allow you to apply for a rezone, but it doesn't actually rezone your property. It just makes it eligible.
Yeah. What was your name again? Sorry.
Patrick Bagley.
Patrick. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right. If there's no further comments, we'll move to B. This ordinance is amending Chapter 2, the Highway Resort Zone. So, a few, what's been 2 or 3 months ago, City Council amended the minimum house size. When that ordinance was passed, we had inadvertently skipped Chapter 22 in including that in that original change. So this is just amending the house size, the minimum house size in the highway resort zone to match the rest of the zones. If there's anyone. All right, we'll move on to C. This is the ordinance amending Chapter 8, Town Standards, Conditions, and Conditional Uses. So in this Chapter 8, what we did was we took much of the material from the old campground standards. It was a Chapter 29 that was proposed a while back. We took those standards for campgrounds and RV parks. We took those and we moved them into Chapter 8, which also houses the standards for a lot of our other buildings. So we took those standards and put them in Chapter 8. So that's what this ordinance is about. There's quite a few of those standards. I don't think I could explain them all in just a few minutes, so. But if anyone has any comments on those standards, what they are, or if they think some should be added or subtracted.
Was this a continuation also of 8.13, limited commercial habitation?
No, this is not. No. All right. The next one is item number D, subdivision parcel number V2139A-1, concept plan and preliminary plot. Misty, would you pull that one up? So this is a small subdivision proposed by K&K, and it is located on Pocketville Road, right across from the old dump location. And this is the proposed subdivision. It's a 12-lot subdivision. Any concerns or comments on the Pocketville subdivision? The orange space, that's where the old dump used to be.
Kevin's got a question.
Kevin?
That orange space is open space, but there's gonna be a sewer system in there too. I don't know. Sewer system.
Okay.
And it will serve this subdivision on the other side of the road?
And that's all below ground, so that's, I think, underground.
What's that?
Is it below ground, below sewer system?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it takes like 60% of nitrates out, where you're above what your normal.
So it's not a lagoon system, it's an injection system.
What's that?
It filters and injects the water into the ground.
Yeah.
So it's not a lagoon system.
There's lots are close to a half acre.
So the reason why they're able to do the half-acre lots is because of the open space that they're combined with on the other side of the road. Any additional comments or questions before we move on? All right, so we're gonna move on to E, conditional use permit for parcel V 2140A4A1. So this is the conditional use permit for Jack Ruggles, the Ruggles property, located right across from our current RV park. And what Jack is currently asking for is a conditional use permit to build his own RV park or have a investor build his own RV park across the street from the existing one. There's one of the proposed, he has a couple of proposed designs, this is one of them.
Can you zoom up that yellow?
I'm trying to get that close. I
That
can't
looks pretty
look
good.
at those, sorry.
That's all right. So those would be the lots.
We'll see if that helps. How many acres is this?
Jack, how many acres is your prop piece? I don't have that.
18.1.
18.1 acres. There you go.
How many sites is he proposing to put on there?
It depends on which plan they go with. For this plan, Jack, do you remember how many sites are on this plan?
It's 81 or
80 sites on,
some over 10 sites.
so if someone's good with math, they can do that in their head, but I can't. How many acres was that again?
18.
So that's about 4.5 sites per acre. Right? Did I do that right? Yeah.
The numbers are right there.
80.
So
Oh, wait.
there's the numbers there. There's 20.
4.5.
But that's not clear.
There's 27 plus 51, so 78 sites.
I did?
And that includes
You're running
bathroom
about
spaces and pull-through spaces.
No.
You're only running about 4 per acre, and we're allowed in this Schedule 8, you're looking at 18, or 16.
16, yeah.
So that's well under the density.
Yeah. Yeah, that math works, right? Yeah, I think that does. Pretty sure. Anything you'd like to add, Jack?
Not really, I guess I'm looking for an interpretation of the ordinance.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying.
Okay. Thanks, Jack. Any additional comments on that conditional use permit? Sir, go ahead and say your name if you would.
Henshaw Atkinson, there, is that going to cause traffic problems, or planning to put a light up, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that, Alan?
According to the state road, they require the entrances to be opposite each other. I mean, like at an intersection, they want them opposite each other, they don't want them offset. And I assume for maybe so when they put the traffic light in,
When he gets closer, when they get closer with a more detailed plan, they will have to get state road permission, so all that will be taken care of there. Mhm. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to our last item. This is item F, an ordinance amending Chapter 21, the resort zone, and sections found within. So 21 is the camping zone that would allow for RV parks and campgrounds. That was passed a few months ago and currently is under a referendum. We looked at the concerns from the referendum, which were the vagueness of the description where the property could be had, the location, and also the lack of campground standards, campground and RV standards were the reasons given for the referendum. So we went back and we looked at those and we changed the location from what it used to be. We changed that location, and as we talked about earlier, we're already in the process of adding the standards and hope to move on with those this evening. But this is the new proposed location of the Chapter 21 camping resort zone. Yes, ma'am.
I think the only one who made a comment from here standing here. So,
Well, we appreciate it.
my comment actually is not applying to the location,
Mm-hmm.
but depending on what happens with the referendum, if you guys would consider changing the name of the zone from resort zone to something else. Because there's a lot of people that get confused between resort zone and highway resort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what the outcome of the referendum is, please consider changing the name of the zone. That's it.
For that.
Thank you. Any additional comment? Kent?
We're done with the open public, and I want to go back to the K&K development. Have questions?
Yeah, sure, that'll be fine.
I'm a slow taker, so it took me.
That's okay.
Number one, being on Pocketville, as was discussed with Ron earlier, and some issues with that road in and of itself. The road has lots of traffic. The traffic seems to be very fast. The road is not in very good condition. If you're talking about how many half-acre lots?
12.
So 12 half-acre lots, adding to the local traffic as well as the problem with the Kolob Terrace traffic. And I think most of the traffic, because I'm there every day several times, and for Ron, for your purpose, I think most of it is not tourist as far as the Google issue. I think most of it is local, with Kolob Mountain, Kolob Terrace, and local traffic as I see it and observe it. But I'm concerned about developments starting up along Kolob Terrace or on Pocketville Road as to the condition of that road. And how are you going to be able to put it into a condition where added traffic with condition of the surface, condition of the speeding of the traffic on there. So that would be an issue. Another issue that I wonder about is if the neighbors have been talked to about changing the lot size requirement to being half acre because you have the open space across the street. If I was that neighbor there that has those trees, and I don't even know who that is back in there, but people who live along there, Clem lives on the next side over. What's the effect of a large underground septic system? How it breathes, how it flows, because I know that's flowing downhill from that septic down the road. How does that all affect, and are the neighbors been consulted and talked to about that? And is there proper posting to those neighbors or contact to those neighbors on both sides of the road? Those are just the initial things that I would ask about, whether or not allowing the half-acre the acre requirement to be changed, and then put all the septics across the street, and how is that affecting the neighbors of that property?
Thank you, Kent. Was there any additional comments on the resort zone or any of the other things tonight? Lisa?
Lisa Sauer, can you just, when it says fronting yes or no, does that mean south or north or just north?
South or north?
And then east of 295, east or west?
That would be 295 east. Sorry, that does need to be changed, yeah. 295 east. So the way we came up with those is that's currently the location of our commercial zones at present. So our present commercial zones is east of 295 east and west of 700 west. So that's, if you wondered where we came up with those streets, that's where they came from. Any additional comments before we move on with the meeting? All right. See, Rod, I told you they were all here for you. They weren't here for this. They were here for you. All right.
I make a motion.
I have a motion to
Close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
I got a motion to close and open. Do I have a second?
I second it.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we'll move on to our open forum. We do limit the time to 2 minutes per speaker in this forum, and this is to discuss any issues or concerns that you wish to bring before the body at this time. If there's any comments, come on up, state your name, and speak your mind. All right. All right, so we'll move on to our public meeting, and we'll start with number 5. Discussion, possible recommendation to approve or deny the proposed subdivision parcels for the K&K, the concept plan and preliminary plat. Let me pull that up real quick. To kind of address some of the concerns, all the neighboring properties are notified in writing about the project and about this meeting, so they could have been here or sent some sort of message to this town office. So all neighboring properties have been notified. It's within 200 feet or 300 feet, Misty? 300, yeah. So every property owner within 300 feet has been contacted in writing. And as far as the sewer, so one of the things that Virgin allows, so each of these lots that is here is tied directly to a portion of the open space to form 1 acre. So every lot is enough for an acre.
We allow for a blended density.
Yeah.
So you add the acreage of the open space to the lot acreage. and you divide that by the number of lots and gives you your blended density as long as it's larger than its current zoning of 1 acre, it's fine.
Yeah, that way there's no additional impact by having the smaller lot size on the environment, because it's all tied together. So that open space won't be able to be developed in the future. It will have to stay open space. The same process took place in Rio de Zion.
The only question would be is if, sometime in the future, we change the ordinances to allow smaller lots and also have a sewer system, then they might be able to change it at that point.
Yeah, with the sewer system. I don't think even changing the lot size would change this much, because their sewer will be already there, so.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if they did hook to the sewer.
Yeah, if they hook to a,
It would,
yeah, it would require an ordinance change, but I guess that would be possible in the future. As far as so the concern about the sewer, kind of the environmental impact of having a one location sewer. So the treatment facility that they're proposing to put in, is 60% more efficient. How much more efficient is it than a?
50 to 60% more than nitrate gas, and that's what contaminates
the groundwaters. So through use of this system, it should actually be less of an environmental impact than having individual septic tanks on each site.
Yeah.
State.
So on a private sewer system, you have to get a permit from Department of Environmental Quality, and you have to have a wastewater purveyor, which the county has designated as being Ash Creek Special Service District. They're the ones who have to come and monitor the system and check it. So that's how that works. So they check all the private systems.
Did they change it?
In the entire county. So.
Cameron?
Alan.
Just a note of information, I know Kim got me the name of the guy from the Ash Creek Sewer District that's gonna come probably and inspect the new addition to the RV park and also Ferber's. So, I mean, if he had 2 or 3 or 4 of them up here to make a good trip, it'd be a lot better. So.
Yeah.
But they do have to be monitored by somebody licensed from the state, so.
Kevin, can you help me explain? We're sitting here trying to look at the overall acreage of this parcel.
12 acres.
Okay, so
There's a strip along the road that's open space, 25 feet. And also
Yes.
that 3.5 acres across.
on the other side.
Or that yellow.
Okay. That notation up at the very top corner is a little bit deceiving because it says 10 acres, but then I could see that the open space common area showed 3.3, and I just wanted to make sure that the blended density is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, because originally you said 10 acres and 10 houses, and now we got 12 houses, so we were trying to figure out where the other 2
But
acres came
I can
from.
see what you're saying.
Trying to square them up and rearrange it, and just 12 worked out a lot better.
Well, that's
So
good.
that's what we learned.
Thank you.
So where's 111 on this map? Why does it start with lot 12?
Oh, it chases from the other side.
No. Chases from which side?
So one.
Find the one and run around.
Where are the lots
These are
numbered?
different than those.
You got the lots numbered wrong on that side.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
That's
They're
what
not-
it's-
oh, gotcha.
This is what was fine. No, well, I'm not.
That we failed.
Well, yeah, I'm not.
Back in order.
So a quick question.
You can number them 1 through 100 as far as I care.
With the sewer system, so there's obviously an HOA or something that funds that if something goes wrong, because my sewer system goes down, like hit pocket national bank funds. You got
Yeah.
12 people, which we know they'll all agree on everything all the time. So.
Do you have to do this checklist?
All right, so yeah, there's a checklist for this that we need to go over. wanted to kind of address the concerns first and then go over the checklist for this plot requirement.
Is this different from the one we did last meeting?
It is different from the one we did last meeting. A lot of it is the same, but some of it is different. So we have the name of the proposed subdivision.
Preliminary plat checklist.
Are you changing the name, Kevin?
What do we have?
I have Legacy Development.
That's changed to American Legacy LLC. And the name of the subdivision is going to be Mesa View.
Mesa View?
Mesa
Where'd you come up with that? That's great.
All right. Getting docked points for this, Kevin. All these changes. All right, so boundary lines of proposed sites on all properties to be subdivided to include all contingent landowners or controlled by the subdivision. So if we want a bigger map, we do have a bigger map. If anyone wants to see the bigger map.
I need a bigger table.
That's why it's not on the table. But if you do want to see it, it's right there. Alan, did you want to see one of these bigger ones?
See that one?
You good? I'm just gonna set it back here unless you want it.
No, I didn't know that, I want to see it.
We can see the boundary lines on there. Neighbors are all listed. Location, width, name of existing plot, streets, right-of-ways, or distance of 100 feet beyond the site. We have that. 100 feet is listed there. Type, width, condition of street improvements, major utility right-of-ways, parks, and other public open spaces located in the width and extending recreation trails. Permit buildings and construction to distance of 100 feet from any of these.
What's the width on the streets?
The width on the streets is, can you see the width on that street? Sean, can you see that width?
Inside.
That's the right-of-way width. So we're gonna need to make sure those are 60 feet.
Yeah, I'll just look at it on the paper.
It does not say, so the preliminary plat will need to, before it goes to the council, they'll need to add.
They'll need to update that.
Oh, which one, that other?
Add 60-foot right-of-way road width.
You need to make sure
I
that the
didn't
scale
list
that is
anything.
60 feet.
It's just what they sent me.
He said he thought it was 50 feet, so they might have to make,
Drawn in at 50, but that doesn't show the easement.
Basically, 60-foot right away.
so our current ordinance requires a 60-foot right-of-way. I learned that today. Okay, so we'll have to make sure that's on there before it can be approved. What about, Kevin, does the canal go through this property? Okay. All right, so make sure we add that in there. Location, width of names of all existing public and private easements. I don't see any other easements except for the Pocketville Road in this.
That's true.
I don't think there is on this one, is there?
Kevin, is there?
I don't know if it's shown there or not.
Are you talking about the driveway or the pipeline?
No, up to the tank.
Up to the tank.
Yeah.
That's one road, but on the side of the hill is the right of way.
Does that easement set on your property though, or on the?
It's actually above this particular piece.
Actually, fall pretty close to the road, but
I think it's pretty close to
Oh,
that
it's
road
here,
that's already
that's
there. That's what I think.
Well, it might be,
I think it's just to the west.
So we'll have to make sure that easement stays in place. To the water tower. Topographical data, we have all the topographical data there.
Sufficient width.
Sufficient natural resources features on the site. I believe he has that.
There are no sign.
Not any
Is there any significant?
There's
I don't
not.
think there is.
Anything on a,
No.
bushes.
There's no.
Big tree.
Okay.
I think that's applicable.
Burial sites categorized under Indian mound, natural or state registered licensed properties and local designated historical properties.
Checked that last time.
Not any.
We checked that last time. It's not listed on the state thing.
Flash flood.
Gonna have a flash flood.
Wow, it works.
What is that?
Emergency.
Emergency. It's the emergency broadcast
Oh,
system.
we know it works.
this is a test.
Somebody's
He's just late. Someone's late.
getting
All
to
right.
it.
Soil classifications. Kevin, did we get the soil classifications on this?
Yes. It's on this.
Okay. Now, last time you hadn't proposed this sewer on the other side. Did that have to do with the soil up there, or? Okay.
And the initial, test on that, they just said they didn't think the health department would go along with putting septics on that type of soil. There's a lot of shale edgy stuff, and they didn't think it was gonna percolate very well.
Okay.
That's what we decided to. The other side where we're putting it, it perked really well.
Okay.
You're underwater now.
Perfect.
Everybody else got one.
Legal description of the property. We have that. Existing zoning classification of the land of the subdivision, yes, residential, rural residential. Toga acreage, we have that. Graphic scale, north arrow, and date. Gotta make sure that north arrow's there.
Kevin, will you just put on total acreage, will you modify your note to show the total acreage of the entire
It
parcel?
shows it on the bottom of that legal description. It says 12 acres right at the very bottom of it. You can read that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Will you just modify your note up here then?
One in the top. the
Top
Top of
top
there.
left corner, this
And
one.
then this one says 10 acres.
Okay.
It doesn't-
Can we get that?
That's the old one. Here's your new one. You've got it in here.
Yeah.
So he has got it. Thanks,
These are just the
Additional
profiles.
All right.
Road profiles.
Layout of process streets showing right-of-way width, types of improvements, surfaces, width, and proposed street names. Did we get the street names on there? I would prefer you didn't name them and you just gave them a nice number.
No,
Yes, because then you can find them.
they need names.
They need numbers.
No, drives me insane.
This is focused on the true southern.
Yes,
Yeah, that's, it's a beautiful thing.
Jeff just
mercy.
All right, so it looks like, Kevin, that we're gonna need to get some street names.
Because right now it just says Middle Street and West Street.
So either names or you need to get the address number.
And even your plan and profile doesn't have a street width on it that I can see.
Yeah, so we're gonna need the width and the name. And I'm guessing, does it have on there, the profile, does it have that they're gonna be asphalt?
That one we're
Didn't have a cross section.
Alan, can you see where it says if they're
Nope.
asphalt or what type of road surface?
Not on these.
Okay, so we're gonna need to get the street surfacing type.
Well, we're gonna have to,
Kevin, it's probably just as simple to have pro value, put just a standard cross section of what the road's gonna look like, and then, you know,
He was in a hurry.
no, it's fine.
Just for city council.
Just a
We're
cross
gonna have
section
to
that
have
shows
curb and gutter
asphalt,
on
3-inch
this too.
asphalt, whatever, what our standard says.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
We're
And
not approving gravel roads.
Right of ways as well. Right of ways.
The width.
the width.
No, you're right of ways. Traffic comes in and out.
Somebody got Verizon.
Guess you're getting more now.
Is
You're
that me?
you're on the water too.
All right. I think that we require curb and gutter as well, right?
I'm almost sure that we do.
Um,
We'll need to check that out to
We're
see.
planning on that.
We did.
Yeah, so if we could get the curb and gutter.
Well, that's why I said a road cross section.
Oh, the cross,
Showing
that will
curb,
show
gutter,
that.
Asphalt,
Yeah,
concrete,
how much base,
Got
how
it.
much asphalt, how much curb and gutter.
it also shows the width.
Yeah.
When you were saying cross section, I was thinking it was gonna show the asphalt, the sub layer, and the layer below that. That's what I was thinking.
It will show all that, but it'll show.
Nice. All right, cross section. I stand educated. All right.
Kevin, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How steep's this, west road gonna be?
You can see the profile.
Staying on there.
He's got it right there on the profile.
Well, I realize that, but it's 60 feet in elevation and, in 400 feet, 300 feet. I thought they should have, but this on.
Well, here's the 14.
Oh, that's, yeah, all right. There it is, yeah. Okay.
That's a little better than 25% grade.
What's the fire district say, what's the fire district say on that?
Maximum grade of road. 10%?
Profile, I mean, on the steep.
Yes, I think that's okay.
Usually,
Because I know some of them they're trying to stay at 10. Up to 15, but I
I
don't
double
know.
check on that, but I know Carl just, he should know what it has to be.
on a residential street, I think it's 10% grade.
So we need to add that to
And
the.
that's.
Well, that's, 10% is the recommended,
Yeah.
but they will, because we've done some that they've actually allowed us to go up to 15
Okay.
for short distances, but
Mhm.
that's why I say, you may want to check on that.
I'll check on it.
Before,
The fire district will have to sign off, give you approval.
I was gonna say, before the final plat, doesn't the fire district have to sign off?
Yeah, they will.
They do now.
All right, so location, type of public easements, and all conservation easements.
So we've indicated that we need him to add the water tank
Easement. And then are these roads going to be dedicated?
Pocket bills.
Okay. Layout of proposed blocks and lots within the plot, so we have that. Basic data regarding proposed and existing lots and blocks, including numbers, dimensions, and areas. We got that, that's the same one as the last one. Minimum front, side, and rear setbacks lines for all lots.
That's on that,
It's on this one.
that's on that deal. Well, it's not on
It's
that.
in your ordinance, I didn't see any reason to put that in here.
I don't,
Usually they just designate it as a plat note. They just put plat note and they state setbacks are, whether you draw them out on the actual lot or not, I don't care as long as you've got somewhere on the plat that says what setbacks are.
okay, so we need to add note. provided location, size of all sanitary sewer lines, water mains, community sewer, and water systems, or individual on-site septic systems and portable waters. Now, I did not see that.
He's got location of the lines in the
Correct.
streets, you can see them, but we don't have any.
And he does have the size too, 8-inch.
Where's that?
It's right there in the middle of the road. So I got water and sewer, and they both say 8-inch. Right in the road on the drawing.
Oh, on the profile?
Yeah, let's check.
Yeah, it's,
I think on this plan it shows the 10-inch water line going up the road and then 8-inch.
That's correct.
do you see that?
10-inch runs along Pocketville. And then your 8-inch branches off it.
Yep. Yep, that's what I see as well.
Where you looking?
So it's right here. So you got your sewer and you got your water, and it's 8-inch, and then there's 10-inch going across.
Where are you reading the sizing?
It says it right there. It says 8-inch, right between the dashes.
One dash will tell you if it's water or sewer, the next dash tells you.
Yeah,
the
it says SS
One
for
has got
sewer,
SS, one's
and then
got
it says
water.
8, and then it says dash SS dash 8, and the other one says W dash 8.
Dash 10, whatever,
And then when it gets down to Pocketville, it's 10-inch,
water.
and the sewer going across the road is 8-inch.
That's awfully small, but I can see it now.
Yeah, it is small. We have a bigger one. You want it?
That's one good thing about being able to make that bigger. on
Yeah,
the
Go
tablet.
like this? Yeah.
They really want you to know.
Alan?
I
How many of
thought I
those?
turned it off.
How many of those are you signed up for?
How many floods do you have?
Okay, so we decided the water and sewer is okay?
It is.
I didn't sign up for any.
It is there, provided that it's adequate. I would assume 8-inch would be adequate. The engineer will have to review it.
For
though.
sewer or water?
Both.
I would think it'd be.
He's got
It's
8-inch.
way more than anything we got.
8-inch line to serve 12 lots.
Yeah.
It should be clean.
We've actually discussed that, and the 8-inch loop as well. We discussed. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You should be good.
Now don't, and I think you do sign off on these before the final plat, right? Yeah. Perfect. I think that's all of our, nope.
Flip it over.
I have one other question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is tied on both ends.
It is tied on both ends. It's loop. And it does go, the water at least, that's something they might need to change. Cause
What?
it looks like they don't have sewer going up to the lot number 11 on ours.
It's up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it don't show a lateral going over to any of them, really.
No, but it doesn't show it going up the road either.
It might not have to.
Require that type of detail.
Branch right over.
I guess it could branch there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
If you were gonna do anything on the rest of that property eventually, probably ought to get that at least stepped up to the top of that west road.
Yeah, we were planning on it.
It don't show it.
It doesn't show it on there.
We'll make sure to put it in there on our next, we can want to run it up there.
You got the water line running up, don't show the sewer.
Then you don't, then you don't have to cut up the road after that.
Location and size of all drainage facilities, features, and areas and other stormwater facilities within the plot that allow drainage within a distance of 100 feet beyond the site. So I don't see any storm drains. But there is no real drainage running through the lots.
Storm drains or drainage, anything like that?
Well, that's, right now, we don't have any of it, but we need to.
Can you just put a note, again, another note on the plat that lots are gonna,
And Chris has been discussing a little bit about how we just.
So,
There's a possibility of a.
yeah, we've got some fairly, it seems like, I guess drainage is the thing for today, whatever, but, we've been outside, we are gonna need to, set aside some property, to keep the drainage to and that hasn't been completely worked out.
Okay.
So we're kind of thinking about putting a detention pond right here. So that would take care of the excess amount of runoff that this is producing. So that's just a thought, that's nothing in.
Well, if you are gonna put detention, then you need to have it designated on the plat and indicated that you can't, that's a no-build area. Because if you're still gonna have it as a building lot, you gotta,
Yes, we need
you just
to,
don't want structures or
that has to be worked out.
restrictions.
That's just the initial thing that we came up with, that's not 100%.
Okay. Development envelope showing areas of gardening, lawn, pavement, and buildings. We discussed that last meeting. The entire lots are open to development. They're not requiring any specific development envelope. Open space areas, trails intended to be dedicated or reserved for public use. It doesn't look like there's any of those. And we do have the open area. Management plan for any open space areas. Kevin, did you get a written management plan for that sewer and open space area? Or are you still working on that?
Well, we're planning on having it away.
Okay. So that's just something we're gonna need to get in writing? Is that what this?
Yeah, I think I think you have to give some designation on what that open space is gonna look like. Is it gonna be native open space, or is it going to be landscape used? Is there anything?
It's gonna be, right now, it's just rolling weeds and stuff, but, gonna be leveled off and there's, you know, I envision some kind of use there, you know, you still be able to use that ground.
Yeah.
So maybe let the town use it or whatever, there's 3.5 acres there. And I think the main part of the system would be, take up a little area, the rest of it's just gonna be underground. So that could be utilized for recreation or something. We haven't got any plans exactly yet, but
Okay. Maybe just a little written narrative, just saying that it's going to be managed by an HOA, left to the HOA's decision whether they want to improve it in the future for some sort of park or recreational use. But initially, it will be
tracks
native.
right behind there, it butts right up to it, so they may want to do
Okay.
with it too.
Yeah, we just need to get that in writing. All right.
Can I just, I'm gonna surprise you with this one a little bit, it just occurred to me as we're walking through this. When we size storm drain systems in particular, if there is an intent to further develop in similar fashion the property above this, I just need to have a feel for what kind of sizing I need to have for the overall, sort of almost in a master plan kind of a piece. That won't impact this preliminary plat, but we're definitely gonna need to see that in terms of just general planning, just to make sure we aren't undersizing it. And I know we haven't talked about this before, because it just occurred to me, that's something we're gonna have to deal with.
I think most of the next, if we do another development, the drainage will go a different direction.
Oh, okay. Well, if you can demonstrate that, then that makes it a little simpler. Okay.
You could also cite retention outside of this subdivision, as long as you have a drainage easement recorded against both parcels, record against the parcel that the detention pond is going to be. So instead of taking it up on, a platted lot, if you want to move it back on this side, that's future development, do that too.
Yeah, the grades,
I don't know
yeah.
about the grade.
Yeah.
That's about where that's about where we're gonna be stuck.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to the preliminary construction plans. We have 4 sets of those things right back there. We have the grading in here, and we just talked about the erosion control. So we're just gonna need to get that drainage pond and stuff and on that. And then provisions for sewer disposal, water supply, stormwater management, and flood control. So
2, 3, 4.
I imagine the city's gonna wanna see the engineering of the sewer system. Studies, complete a traffic study.
We don't require a traffic study for that size of development.
We don't require it for that size?
Has to generate a level of trips per day that's a lot more than the 12 lot subdivision generates.
Okay.
In this case, 5 lots or more.
Yeah, that's not the ordinance though.
Probably should match those up.
Or you don't have all the subdivisions which have not been granted additional land.
Oh, required for subdivision 5 lots or more. But if the ordinance doesn't match, it says
May be requested by the
Maybe
planning commission.
requested by the planning commission.
that's the,
5 lots.
but then after it says and are required
Yep.
for subdivision 5 or more. So we probably should make that match the ordinance.
So, so does that mean we need to have that study done, or?
Maybe we can require it, I guess, is what they're saying. But my understanding is it has to reach a level of 50 trips per day, which at the average about 2.5 trips per day
Per lot?
per lot. We're not.
2 times 12.
That's pretty close.
2.5 times 12 is 24. And a half again, 30. 30.
30 trips per day. Thank you.
At least you got out.
Yeah, exactly.
30. So is that something we're gonna want to require for 30?
Well, that, again, that's discretion. If we want to
Yeah.
require it, we can. We don't have to by ordinance. So that's a decision you can ask the planning commission.
What do you think, Alan?
I don't think you need it for that,
I don't either.
especially when you've got 2 accesses going in and out.
That's true. As far as that traffic on the Pocketville Road,
That's separate though.
yeah, but this would affect that.
Well, it will some, that's for sure.
Fill the whole street with stop signs. No one wants to go up it.
Yeah, people gonna have to get used to it because this place is growing and we're gonna have traffic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another issue that we'd like some sense for sort of that overall planning of the area. Is if we're gonna bring a lot more traffic through this one street that is gonna be contiguous to some other parcels. It's just nice to have a rough idea of sort of what the traffic volumes will look like in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
To see if we do create any additional issues.
Yeah, I think we are gonna create issues, but that's
Well, I mean, you either
not today.
either you don't build and have no traffic or build and have traffic. I mean, you know,
Yeah, well, I think something's gonna have to change. People are gonna have to start using the other route in some way, but,
okay.
all right. Anyone else have any suggestions on the requirement? I'm inclined not to have the study done for this
I
one.
don't think it's necessary myself.
Fiscal impact study, is this something that's required, or is this may?
It's May.
All those are
All those listed are
So we don't need that one. The wastewater will be provided with the sewer system, so we will have that one required. And
Also-
stormwater and drainage will have the
Stormwater.
storm.
We assume that our engineer's taking care of that analysis for us.
Yeah. Yep. Storm, water and drainage. And that's it. That's all there is. All right, any other questions or concerns, comments from the commission? Alan?
I don't think we ought to put this all on their subdivision, but we need to do something with that road. And I don't know if that needs to be something that we need to address as the city or what, but, and it isn't just that area right there, that road all the way down through there, it needs some work.
Yeah, there's.
We've got Sierra Bella coming in, just approve it. Along with this, yeah, we
Sierra Bella's not gonna stay empty forever either.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at that road for sure.
Well, we do have impact fees that will come
From these lots.
from these lots, and the purpose of the impact fee is to help, improve roads that need improvements, or building new roads, but widening a road like that, so. Each time a building permit is pulled in this subdivision or Sierra Bella, there's a portion of money that gets put into our roads impact fees, which we can use to do that. That being said, it's only one way to fund something like that. There's more.
You guys can make that over.
What?
Make it over. Put a bunch of stop signs and cameras, make some money.
Or leave it open and turn up the speed limit. It's the only roller coaster in town, so.
Anything else? Sean, or Dina, do you have anything?
No, good.
So the question becomes.
Oh, hold on one second. Go ahead. Or
Kevin and I have worked hard also on Fulton Range cattle on that road. Because the cattle guards there at 385, keep them off that side line. Now with the new road, that's another issue of where that cattle guard should be relocated. Probably clear up the top of it. And that's something to keep in mind, because it is open range area.
moving cattle guard.
And the stop is very good currently, whenever anybody calls, they're right there on top of us.
That's because it's their stuff. Glad they make it there fast.
Well, Sheldon's really good at it.
That's a good distinction. All right, thank you.
So what I was gonna say was, it's the planning commission's decision whether or not they feel like you can recommend preliminary plat approval subject to these changes being made to the preliminary plat prior to council having it, or whether you want to table it, have them come back with all these changes and things to it. Probably be the way to do it. If you feel like you can properly restate all of the deficiencies, things. that
Kevin,
need to be
can you do
corrected.
that? Can you get that accomplished?
Alan?
Well, I was just gonna say, almost everything in here that we didn't have done yet is being worked on right now. So I think we can pass it on to council with that stipulation, that those be addressed.
Yeah, with the exception of two of the items, the drainage and the 60-foot right-of-way, most of the other stuff is pretty small. Like the names, type of road. But,
60-foot right of way is not a big, ain't hard to fix that at all.
yeah. Yeah, I think we'd
But
be
if
able
those
to.
roads, if he's got them drawn out as 50-foot right of ways,
Well, he's just
you're gonna
drawn,
lose.
he hasn't got the right of way drawn, he's just got the road drawn at 50 feet.
That's
I don't think he's even
Oh.
split
That
it
will-
all the way.
But that will diminish your lot
Yes,
sizes.
it will. I think that's a pretty significant issue. I
To
think.
me, you understand, if you're cutting off 10 feet or 5 feet on both sides of that road to make it 60 feet wide,
That is gonna change the
you're
lot
gonna
sizes.
diminish your lot sizes on all.
You're gonna have to take 5 feet off if you make it 60. It's already, those roads are already figured as a ditch.
Well, that's what we're saying, Kevin.
My
Like
point
right on
is,
each side, yeah.
you got, what's your smallest lot?
I think he's gonna have to recalculate anyway, because one of them's becoming a drainage, so you're gonna lose a lot already, so.
So it might, and
It should,
faces in terms of
right,
lot.
it might just wash out.
I think as a practical matter, they're probably going to lose a lot towards that width. They can use that remaining parcel for the drainage.
I thought on new development, you could count out the middle of the road for the lot size.
Thanks, man.
Couldn't tell you.
That I don't know, the roads aren't included in,
No.
Well, we did allow it on one subdivision, on that one event that's over there.
roads,
Funded density?
Say what?
roads are included in the density
Oh, that's what I was
calculations?
thinking of. Well, I know we did it for Vince over there on his. Because by putting the road up past Chris's, it would have made it too small without going to the center of the road. And so we approved it then to the center of the road.
Well, if the density includes roads, we should probably pull that ordinance up real quick.
Which subdivision, or
This
which one?
one's showing on here.
So it'll be chapter 9.
New development, you can count
Chapter 9.
for your lot size.
It's in supplemental qualifying regulations.
If I could get from A to B.
All that stuff's out now.
Because if it does include roads, then it doesn't make any difference, but if it does, it could make a whole lot difference.
Well, I don't think it will, actually, because he's gonna have to sacrifice a lot already for the drainage, so that's gonna cut his lots down.
Well, what he was saying was he was going to do was they're gonna just designate a portion of that lot as unbuildable.
Right, but then
Yeah, but
that,
if it's
that
already
that
half
would
an
count
acre.
into your extra 10 feet for lot sizes is gonna be swallowed up in that land that's no longer.
My understanding
houses.
is he's still keeping that lot, though.
Not for a house.
That was my understanding.
With drainage? Do you know where you're gonna have drainage?
Hey, on your drainage, Kevin, on your 12, you're gonna put the drainage in there. Is that still gonna be are you gonna put the drainage pond and a house, or is that just gonna be designated for the drainage pond?
We were planning on just putting it and a house. We would give up a lot there, which makes it.
Well, then, yeah. it is.
There would just be stipulations on that lot saying you cannot build or disturb this drainage. That was my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
One above it is 0.6 acres, so we might move that lot line up a little too.
Yeah.
And that lot's a whole, almost a half acre.
Did you find that?
Well, there is a section on development yield analysis, but it does not talk about the streets one way or the other. It just talks about open space.
Chapter 1?
Or it might be in supplemental and qualifying regulations too, but. Let me see if I
I
can.
hate this damn thing.
Anyway, how do you get to it?
Well, there's,
Oh, I have a meeting notes.
I can never get what I need till after. This is so much faster than having paper.
I don't know.
How would that be worded? Because doesn't this thing have control
It should
find?
be in the subdivision ordinance.
Well, there is a section in the subdivision ordinance on development yield analysis.
Yeah, I don't want that.
So what's the deal on if it makes the lots a little smaller, is that
So
a minimum lot size or?
the concern is that what we're trying to see is if the roads can be included in your in your total calculations, or if the roads have to be excluded from the calculations.
Notwithstanding the road situation, even if those lots are a little smaller, say if they're, is that a reason to drug minimum?
So the concern is, Kevin, is that you would have to take the entire road access out of your calculations for your number of lots. That's the concern. No.
Well, if there's not a minimum lot size, what difference does it make?
Doesn't matter, we have a 25-foot open space next to the road, if we have to take part of that out to make up what we could.
But if you don't have to do that and you wanna leave your open space, even if you go down to a third of it.
So,
Don't you still have to have?
but
acreage?
on this, you have 12
Yeah, you have to
acres
have it
total,
But
correct?
you got the total.
So the concern is, and what we're looking for is, when you're calculating your density, one lot per acre, do we have to take the road out of that
You
calculation?
probably have an acre's worth
Of road, so
more
we're-
road, and you have 12 acre parcel.
Yeah, so we're wondering if we'd have to reduce your number of lots by one,
Doing the
because,
development yield analysis or calculating the blended density, do we include roads or not include roads? And
Well,
But wait a second, isn't the total property size 18.1 acres?
this,
no, it's
Where
12.
was the 18.1 we were talking about earlier? The heck was that? Oh,
That was Ruggles.
Okay, I'm getting lost here, and there's too many things going on. I see what you're saying, though. We just gotta find if it says it in there.
well, it should be in the subdivision if I could get to it.
I'm looking.
I'm in the subdivision right now.
Well, there should be a place in there that says, because I know we allowed it for vents on that subdivision over there.
The whole idea of cluster, it's that like being a cluster, which is 915-4C.
Almost there. Development yield, the number of residential units for a parcel shall be determined in accordance with the following. Shall establish the development yield for the parcel, the base development yield may be increased by the parcel complies with performance standards, creating endowment, providing access to using historical implementing improved professional grading, maintaining. I didn't know that at all.
Is there a search
Takes
in
me
this
back
thing?
to 910, but it doesn't say roads. That's crazy.
Like when we were working on fences, you found that in the definition.
Check chapter one.
I went through it, but not, there, it would be in the definition section, but I looked under development yield, I looked under density, and there's not.
Total area of the parcel including perimeter. It's under here, I think. Total area, gross acreage, total area of a parcel including the area of perimeter street rights of way to the center line of the street.
Yeah, it says that
Is
in,
one?
yes, it says
It's under gross
acreage gross.
Under, yeah,
Gross acreage.
right.
Okay, that's why I didn't find.
Yeah.
Actually, it's
stumbled on it.
acreage, comma, gross.
Acreage, comma, gross.
And then they have parentheses to say gross acreage.
So yeah, that should be good. Yep, yeah.
You can count up to some line of road.
All right, we can move on that one, can't we?
I knew it wasn't in there because I read that.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1 under acreage, comma, gross, of all places. I mean, that's like looking through the needle through a haystack.
Which, when we.
Yeah, if I
do
hadn't
chapter
stolen it, I
9,
would have never even known
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so where it says, in chapter 9, subdivisions, where it says density yield analysis, let's put a sentence in it that says, in calculating density yield, include roads.
Includes roads and open space and right-of-ways.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Wow. I think that didn't take long.
Well, thank you all for bearing with us through that excitement.
Excitement.
All right, so I feel like that those changes are minor enough that we can go ahead and recommend this without. I don't see any need to have him wait. I think those things can easily be obtained
Would you like me to try
To July.
summarize the changes that need to be made between now and council to the preliminary plat?
I would really like you to summarize those.
So if I were a planning commission member, I would make a motion to
Can we do this in,
recommend
can we do
preliminary
this in
plat.
sequence?
You just say so spoken.
Okay,
The
that'll
re-
work, that'll work.
I would make a motion to recommend the preliminary plat, subject to the preliminary plat map submitted having the title to the subdivision changed to Mesa View subdivision, to show on this, on the plat that the roadways are 60 feet in width, and reduce any lots accordingly in size. There needs to be a designation of the water tank easement on the preliminary plat. The note at the top left corner needs to be updated to designate the total acreage of 12.00125 acres. The road profiles need to include a cross-section showing the type of pavement and curb and gutter, and
Street names.
street names need to be designated on the plat. There also needs to be a small narrative submitted indicating the management plan for the open space area, indicating that an HOA will be formed to fund and maintain the open space area, and a determination on ultimate use at a later date.
Storm drain.
Yeah, the setbacks need to either be designated on the lots themselves or in a plat note on the preliminary plat. And we also recommend that no additional studies such as traffic, fiscal impact, wastewater, or storm drainage studies need to be submitted by the applicant, but that a designation of a on-site stormwater retention area needs to be designated somewhere on the plat to the approval of the town engineer. I think that's everything.
Everything I had.
That's how I would make the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the city council as stated.
I have a motion.
By the attorney.
I have a motion to approve, for recommendation of approval, provided the changes as stated were made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alan seconds. Alan?
Yes.
Yes.
Cameron, yes. Dina?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
What do we need to add?
We got a little homework to do now.
You got 2 weeks or less.
Have Carl get the minutes from this.
What did it say about the acres? What did we add? Acres?
Oh, yes, we're gonna add,
Which ordinance is this one of all those following that we're looking at?
22. All right, so our next item is item number 6, discussion on possible recommendation to approve or deny proposed conditional use permit application for parcel number V2140A4A1. This is the application from Jack Ruggles for the conditional use permit to have an RV park. So he has not provided all of our required material for the conditional use permit because he is looking for a ruling on whether the actual use will be allowed in his current zone, which is currently zoned Highway Resort, which is chapter 22.
So in the packet, there is a list, there is a copy of a portion of chapter 22 in the conditional uses. Every use besides a single family dwelling is a conditional use in a highway resort zone. And so, as a planning commission, you will need to determine whether his proposed use is likened to or the equivalent of any of these uses. We can have Mr. Ruggles explain to us why he thinks that an RV park is similar to a hotel motel, those types of transit uses.
Jack, would you like to come and explain to us your rationale of why you think that an RV park would fit in this zone?
No.
All right. Well, if you don't want to, I don't know who would.
Well, actually, one is a legal opinion. Does it fit the description of a tourist-related business where people have cabins and, I mean, it seems like it fits the description of chapter 21, what it used to be. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't have RV use in there. I don't know.
There's just
Okay.
the purpose of 22. Did you see that?
Yeah, we don't have that in the packet. You might want to read to them what the purpose of chapter 22 are.
So the purpose of the highway resort zone, so that's chapter 22, is to provide for a visitor resort of high-quality visitor activities. 2, and the first point is allow for and regulate the development of a tourist-based uses in a green and open setting while preserving and enhancing the unique visual qualities and rural character of the town of Virgin. So the question is the use he's proposing, is it tourist-based use? If that's so, it does fit the purpose, if that's what we're looking at. And then, of course, we have all the conditional uses. Is it similar to any of those uses, which are also tourist-based? So I believe that's kind of the question. Does it fit the purpose of the chapter itself? He's along the highway, so it fits highway resort. There's a.
Well, he
I
already
think
has the
there's a
zoning.
RV park across the street, so we obviously know that it's a beneficial use to the town there.
Do RV lots generate room or resort taxes?
Yes.
Because that's one of the purposes, to promote the economic well-being of the town through the generation of room and resort taxes.
Yep.
So there's kind of two things to look at here, in my opinion. When we look at the conditional uses, the RV park is not listed here as a conditional use. There is listed here hotel motel. But there is not listed RVs. But he indicated earlier, when you look at chapter 21, which is it's the zoning that currently has an RV park on it now. And it says in its closure that the highway resort zone was adopted to take the place of the highway resort zone was adopted to take the place of the resort zone, which did allow for RVs. So.
And then 22 just conveniently didn't have RVs added to it as an actual line item, but is it still a similar use as well?
Yeah.
I think you're looking for just an interpretation.
And it does generally fit the purpose of the zone.
So, looking at this from an approval standpoint, this is on the agenda for a recommendation, one way up or down, for approval
Yep.
of an RV park based on the submittal that he has provided obviously the first hurdle is getting over this issue of whether this use is
Permitted.
is a.
Or conditional
at
or
least a
whatever.
Conditional,
Yes.
likened to similar, to, the uses allowed in this zone and thus acceptable or not. Then I think I've made a list, of just some things that if you get over that hurdle, I would like to suggest, going through our conditional use permit ordinance, some things that his plans would need to be supplemented with if you're inclined to find that it is. That between now, just like we sent Mr. Stout home with some homework, that between now and council meeting, Mr. Ruggles would need to do that. I completely understand some of those things are gonna require probably the investment of time and money in an engineer to do some of the design work. So you probably need to get over that first issue first. If you can't get over it, then I won't even waste my time giving you my list.
What, with that list, if we did get over that hurdle, couldn't we just put the condition, could we set the condition for this use that he comes back and updates his
The actual permit's not
and he,
issued until
yes,
he's
then,
provided all of that.
and he updates his conditional use according to ordinances rather than listing a line item thing? I guess the line item thing would help Jack, but
Yeah.
would be a lot easier just to make him research it himself.
I'd like to give him a list.
Okay. So I guess you can sit down, Jack. Thank you.
So we then being asked to approve or deny this to council
Yeah, make a recommendation.
whether they consider it.
I would assume if they felt that your recommended interpretation is correct,
Okay.
if your recommended interpretation was that it is allowed or allowed as a conditional use, and you make some other requirements, conditions, and such as the things that I will probably list and need to be included, they can make those same, we're helping them formulate what the requirements of the permit are going to be if you get that far.
What do you think, Alan?
I don't know. I don't see any problem with it myself, but according to our ordinances, I don't know if it does or not.
Gene, what do you think?
Well, if it, since it's not mentioned in there, obviously the concern is precedence and all that gets set by it. But to me, if the purposes of the chapter 22, one of the purposes is to raise capital for the city, that's in there. If it's to cater to the folks coming through to see our national parks, that's in there. I just think it's a gray area, but I'm for it.
Dina?
I have no problem with it. You know, I don't approve of all the different resort zone and highway resort. It's all commercial to me. It all ought to be all commercial, and it ought to have. And there's the same facility right across the street, so why shouldn't he be allowed on the other side of the street, you know?
Which one have we got the moratorium on?
21.
Which is the, which is the resort zone.
That's the one we changed.
That's the one that there's currently a referendum on.
Yeah.
That's another consideration.
I think if he can, adhere to the stipulations that, Heath is gonna give him, and if he can, do all of that before council, just like with Kevin, we gave him homework, so, I know these people have been working on this, or Jack has been working on this for a long time, and, you know, we can.
Was there a comment?
Yeah, I have a question here. So we're referring to a chapter that's currently under referendum.
No.
No?
Well, yes, but not for this reason.
Okay. So I was just gonna say, it seemed to me pretty counterproductive to put our chips on something
No.
that may come up red or black
It would not.
The referendum regarding the highway resort zone has to do with the expanded eligibility area.
And
This
he's not in
area
that.
was already part of a prior amendment to the highway resort zone that expanded its eligibility, that was not challenged by referendum. And Mr. Ruggles applied for a highway resort zone designation, was granted it, and that wasn't challenged.
Perfect, yeah, because I think I was just gonna say, certainly would be fair to Andy that.
No, yeah, thank you.
The only thing I would like to say is the highway resort zone was not created to supplant the resort zone.
Well, I would beg to differ because that's exactly what it says in 21. And we can discuss it after the meeting if you want, and I can show it to you. I can show you the ordinance, but thank you. Sean, what are your thoughts?
There's some good arguments for it. I'm pretty impressed that he'd be bold enough to do this. I think if this ended up in a courtroom, I think pretty sure a judge is gonna say, oh yeah, this fits the use of this zone. So even if we were to deny it, I think it would end up being able to be pushed through in court anyway. So I say we, instead of saying, hey, you can't do it, let's help him, encourage him, and then we have conditional use available to us. And we're also going to be adjusting the camping and resort conditions and standards anyways. And that was even before we were anticipating this. So I think we're right in line. We're gonna have we've got one of the best RV parks in the nation, and we could have two side by side. If in marketing standpoint, what do you want across the street? You want something that's gonna attract even more people. So I think they'll actually help and benefit the town and benefit the businesses there. So I think it'd be great. So supplement the signs that are always out there that say RV park full. So
Yeah.
and we know we need it. We got to put it somewhere. So
Alan?
One concern. I think the project is a good project, but we don't have any standards as of present.
Well, we have them here tonight.
that's the one
Coming up?
Yeah.
Chapter 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The ones we've been working on. You had a comment?
I just want to add, we're working on the chapter 8. This is a long road that he's got ahead of him to do this. Everybody on the general plan is saying, well, the general plan is saying we want economic growth, we want it to be something that's going to benefit the town. This is a great location right across the street from another one. It's all compiled together, and the more I think about it, I just think this is a great project, if council agrees with it.
Yeah, I say we move forward with this first hurdle and get that interpretation. And we're the ones that recommend it, one way or the other, and let council take a look at it and see what they think. So, if we're ready, I'll make a motion that we.
Well, I agree that the project's a good project. My only concern is does it really? Because what we're doing here is we're looking at our ordinance and interpreting our ordinance. And so my concern would be, does our ordinance actually allow for it? Because we're not making an ordinance with this decision, we're interpreting. We're making a recommendation of our interpretation of the ordinance.
It's true.
So that, I try to put all the other stuff aside, whether I like the project, all that's, I try to put aside and just look at look at the actual ordinance and what it says. And I'm torn on this decision because it definitely falls within the general purpose of the zone. The 22 was provided to update 21 when it was closed, but it's not listed specifically in the conditional use. That's my only obstacle there.
You
So,
mean the RV park is not listed as a
conditional use, yeah.
And my only counter argument to that is, looking at the purposes, it meets the purposes.
It does, it definitely does meet the purposes.
Tourist-based businesses that benefit the town and generation of room and resort taxes. I just don't know, I mean, when this was originally made, if that was specifically excluded for a reason, or if it was covered in 21 so that you never thought that it needed to be added here, or just because you can't put every single thing into an ordinance. So that's my thought on it.
During our annual training, this was, the private property rights ombudsman mentioned that things like this, if you want to prohibit something, you specifically have to put it in there. But you can't be inclusive of everything. It would be very difficult. So you're really zoning things out of a zone by saying, I will prohibit these. But everything else ends up being, in this ordinance, a conditional use. And with the conditions, that's to mitigate any concerns we have. Is he gonna come in here and put in a project that's gonna be, do a crappy job on it? No, he can't, because we're gonna put conditions on it that are gonna make it so he'll build it just as good as the other one. Even without the standards, we can still add those conditions. So, but economically, he's gonna build the best he can so he can attract the best clientele and make money on it.
Alan, did you have a comment? It does read in here, under the general provisions, it says, the zone is intended to provide for lodging with support facilities and services, small scale commercial activities, crafts and winery activities, outdoor recreations, etc. And this is lodging, a lodging facility. That's in 22.2. Does someone want to make a motion on this, or is there any further discussion on this?
I'll just say from my limited point of view that I feel like this has enough meat, enough content to support legally or otherwise what Jack is looking to do here, that I don't think this is that gray of an area.
So you're making.
Cameron, why don't you take a straw poll, not necessarily a motion, as to this first issue, and then if we go, unless you wanted to pass it on without any recommended conditions, because if you are leaning to recommend that your interpretation is that the proposed use is likened to or contemplated by the zone, then
I see.
I do
Yeah.
have some proposed conditions.
Yeah, so you're saying rather than take a motion, get the general feel and then arrange the motion. That's a good idea. Alan, and what do you?
I like it,
On the interpretation.
Are you going to, on the,
interpret our ordinance to,
would you recommend approval or denial with conditions?
with conditions, I'll recommend approval. Once we get the standard set, then I wouldn't have any heartburn at all on it.
I'd approve.
Same. Tina?
Same.
Sean? I think I'm inclined to recommend approval as well.
okay, the next question then is, do you guys want to, before giving a formal recommendation of approval, do you want to wait until the standards are added to chapter 8? Do you want me to provide you with additional, what are a list of recommended conditions? What would you like?
Do we need my understanding is, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, my understanding is Utah law says is provided that we're working on standards before the application is made, those standards would apply to the applicant, even if the application was made before they were approved.
Called pending ordinance doctrine, Logan versus Western Land Equities is the name of the case. And it says if we have a
Great.
pending ordinance in draft form, it can't be something we're amorphously, just in general
Mhm.
concept discussing. We actually, which we do, we have a draft,
Mhm.
then we can hold the applicant to those conditions of a pending but not passed ordinance.
So I don't think we would need to wait for chapter 8 then. Okay. Would you mind providing us a list of conditions? These will all come from the ordinance, I'm
Yeah.
sure, and there's quite a list of them.
So I think there needs to be a requirement that the plans designate appropriate bathroom facilities for the site based on the number of stalls or number of units that will be placed out there, and the type of RVs or other camping facilities located on there. Trash receptacle areas need to be designated. Needs to provide a permit from the Washington County Health Department indicating that a septic sewer system is sufficient, or provide plans for a private system which is approved by Utah Department of Environmental Quality. Number 4, that sufficient parking areas be designated within plan. I know we have pad sites, but what about other vehicle parking? Does not appear to be a lot of designation of that. Number 5, landscaping. The highway resort zone has some very specific requirements for landscaping. You can notice in front of the current RV park, there's a very large strip of landscape in the front. There appears to be sufficient room on the back side of those pad sites, but it needs to designate it as landscaping and give some general description of the type of landscaping that will be there.
And dimensions.
He needs to designate if there's going to be any pedestrian connectivity, like trail or anything through this area. We don't have anything like that, so obviously we have an outline of roads. We don't have anything for pedestrian connectivity there. Number 7, the plan would need to be reviewed and approved by the Hurricane Valley Fire District for compliance with International Fire Code. You do have a singular entrance, which I'm going to get to, another condition. Long looping, and you've got a lot of different units in there, so it needs to make sure that the widths, which we don't have any designation on these street widths or driveway, this is on private roads, are sufficient, and if there's sufficient access or widths to get fire trucks or anything through in case there's some sort of unit fire. The next one is that they need to provide approval from UDOT for the access location. I would assume that is the preferred understanding how UDOT's been on approvals in the past, lining it up with the entrance to the.
It is black that way.
But we need approval. I mean, their plans show an access right there.
You know, before you go any further,
Yeah,
I mean, I want to hear the rest of them.
I don't have a copy.
But we can give him a copy of the chapter 29 that was voted down. Everything that you've said here is addressed in that.
Pretty close. However, though, as we've learned with other applicants, sometimes they like to pick and choose what
Yeah.
they think is relevant or what is not relevant. That's why I'd like to make a list for Mr. Ruggles.
Okay.
So there needs to be a designation of quiet time hours. I'm not sure what's required on the existing RV park, but that needs to be included. And then I think there needs to be a condition that there's restriction and you guys can designate, I don't know if the current park has it on the time frame for rental of pads, so that it doesn't become a long-term trailer park.
Oh, yeah.
I might suggest something like 30 days.
It's in the chapter 8
Oh, it
that
is
we're
in-
doing.
okay.
Mhm.
So is the quiet time.
That's all that I have listed as.
I
where
think,
see.
I think we would definitely want him to provide a floodplain study, a water drainage study,
Because that area has some
flooding
drainage
issues. Yeah,
It's very good.
add the drainage to that.
Didn't you mention something about his current conditional use permit?
Yeah, that his current conditional use permit for that property would need to be terminated and this one granted. And it can be terminated upon the development. He may be able to continue his existing, he has a conditional use permit to do horseback trail riding from that facility. He can continue with that until the point in time that the development starts on this approved conditional use permit, at which time his previous permit would be terminated. He's not entitled to do an RV park with horseback riding from the park
Mhm.
as part of it. It doesn't become a blind.
You could approve that if he asked for it, but he's gotta,
You can recommend it, but
He's
that's
gotta-
my suggestion, is we don't have overlapping
Yeah.
CDPs on that.
Or he would have to come in and get a separate.
yes, he would have to add it to a second.
Another part of the property, one affect the
Okay.
RV park.
Yeah,
Well, then you just need to get an amended conditional use permit to do it on another,
it'd be amended.
Part of the property.
yeah.
Because it wouldn't be worth shutting the horse business down.
Well, and what I'm suggesting is that the permit is not terminated until you start development. You can continue from this location until you actually start to push dirt.
Yeah. Well, I don't do anything with the horse business on that part of the property.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Someone wanna make a motion then?
I'll make the motion again, to approve to council for
Recommend
consideration.
approval?
Recommend approval to council for review of this permit with additional uses, use requirements, conditions as stated by the attorney.
And can we also add about chapter 8?
Oh, that it also complies with all the
Regulations.
campground requirements that we are adding, the pending ordinance, the chapter 8,
And
the chapter 8 amendments.
And that they meet the requirements or the pending requirements of chapter 8.
So, motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
A second.
Any further discussion? Alan?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Cameron, yes. Dina?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
All right. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Concept plan review of proposed subdivision on V88A1. So y'all's been waiting, but it's now your turn. So, we had a site visit to this parcel earlier today.
Too much paper in here.
What?
Hey Misty, did we get their application?
My daughter,
Do they have an
It's
application?
it's on the drive.
it's time.
Oh, there it is. Never mind. Sorry, I just missed it.
You got a hard copy to it.
No, no hard copy of the application.
Concept plan application checklist.
There's a checklist in the map.
Would you solemn oath I would get this back? But just in case you're missing anything, this is their whole file.
Okay, got it. All right. So do you guys want to present anything more than we've already discussed, or were you okay? Okay, so we're just gonna go through our checklist and make sure that we have everything from you.
Which checklist are you on?
Concept plan checklist.
There's a 9.9.5
C-8, I don't remember where it is on the checklist, it asks us to determine who will manage the open space.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to add a note that will be an HOA.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we need to add a note on is the 9.9.5.C.16. And it asks us to estimate the traffic levels and streets within the adjoining property. And so that's basically SR9. So we've looked up traffic trips per day, depending on the time of year. The numbers that we find is between 3,000 and 14,000 trips per day. And there may be a better set of numbers out there, but that's the numbers we could
For
find.
SR9?
And that's CEO. Used to be, So those two updates probably need to be added as notes on the concept.
Can I ask a question before they?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we get started on the checklist, when I first looked at this, it didn't look like a subdivision. Can you explain how this is a different design of a subdivision than what most of us look at with a line here and a line here, and that's where the fence would go? How is this different?
Yeah, so let's take a couple steps. So we figured that would be a concern. So this is it's the Amazon Plateau subdivision in Springville. And everything is up at see that. But it's very similar to what we
Mike knows where that's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's putting a fence up there. He knows where it's at.
I've been there. It's a terrible place when the gnats are out.
Oh, yeah. There's one spot with mosquitoes.
Place to replace it. That's
I was gonna say, they all are. So those are just separate lots. I never considered that you could do a lot just with a whole square.
So on this is another one that's in Washington, and they did it in a similar fashion. And so the difference is, there's considerably more common and what's called limited open space. And so we wanted to describe a building envelope, make sure that each building envelope is far enough away from another building envelope so the setbacks are set, and that we're meeting the setback requirement for fire code and any ordinance requirements. And it gives the HOA control of more open space, and it reduces the control to the lot owner so that they only have control of a small building envelope, and then everybody in common shares more open space, and it allows for, in a way, a nicer controlled development. So that's just the tack we took. We could.
Jared, I just want to confirm that the streets within here are private.
Yeah, so I have a question for you on the ordinance where it says ask the attorney for consideration. There's a spot that says ask the attorney about private streets.
Yes.
But that's the way we.
As long as there's a homeowners association and I'm able to review the CSNRs to confirm that there is a mechanism for assessments of dues to maintain the private streets, you're welcome to have private streets. In fact, I don't know if this type of setup would work under our ordinances because it says that every lot has to front on a public street. But where it's a private street, you can put it out there where you want it. That's why my question is, are these private streets?
We would prefer they be private.
They don't have to be gated or anything, they can just be private. But that means the obligation to maintain them is going to be initially the developer and then ultimately the homeowners association.
Okay. Any other questions for them? And then we'll go through the checklist.
Just looking at that map, where's your access to the highway?
Up here. Oh, okay. And then on these, we put in the building envelopes of the lots. And then as the concept plan is generally like, we can add what's called limited open space out to the roads when we bring the preliminary plat in. And limited open space allows for the driveway on and off the road. And so we can define that. We can still keep the building envelope back within the setback requirements and add limited open space so we can see where the driveways are gonna go and be further apart. But that's a detail we were hoping to add at the preliminary plat stage.
Jared, I see you have some parking right as you come off SR9. Is that what that is, or is that parking in front of like a clubhouse amenity type?
Yeah, the check-in or clubhouse parking here.
Okay, are you going to designate as common area parking, off-street parking? How wide are these roads?
So the cross-section is 28 feet for the road and the curb and the gutter. And then we have sidewalks on one side of the road, 4 feet.
Okay.
So we're at a 32-foot cross-section for sidewalk and road, but we've got a clear zone area for fire code.
Sure.
From center line.
My question is just like, if, I've seen a few of these, and parking on narrower private streets can become a problem if you're going to be doing short-term rentals a little bit. And I see one way that that's mitigated, for instance, like Paradise Village and some of those, is they have pull-out parking off to sides of.
So we did these extra deep as extra parking just in case somebody brought a boat or,
Yes.
Or a trailer with, you know, their side-by-side.
Okay.
Or for some reason they had an RV, but they weren't gonna stay in the RV park, so they could park it and not clutter the street.
The reason why I ask is if you're gonna do it, I could see, if you do it as limited common area, that right to park on it is only limited to the lot owner. If it's common area, then any one of the owners or guests of these
Homes can park there.
can park there. So that's why I was asking if you're gonna do any separate, kind of standalone common area parking.
That's the plan
That's the
for
plan.
that area that's mislabeled RV parking.
Okay.
That should probably be labeled overflow parking.
Overflow parking.
And then, we could add more parking if we thought we needed it, but I think we've adequately covered it if we have enough limited parking. And then we did not include the parking area in our open space tabulations. We exempt that from our.
You don't have to, but you can.
Yeah, that's nice.
We assume that we need to.
It's a safe assumption.
Up there, so I have one question. By the pond, what are those two? You have two, the one on the east side. You have the two little, yeah, those, and there's one on.
Those are pavilions.
Okay,
Sorry, we should have labeled that.
okay. I just saw them and I wasn't quite sure what they
I
were.
thought they were machine gun emplacements.
Turrets, anti-aircraft. Yeah. Okay.
Duck blinds.
The overflow parking area, there's no road accessing that. Is that accessed by the private lane on the opposite side? And should there be a setback from the property boundary? I mean, the parking lots are right against the boundary of the property.
Yeah.
Should there be like a 30-foot setback or something?
So we looked that up, that's a public street. And so we just had the parking coming off this public street.
Okay, so that public street is like 20 feet wide. It used to be wider, expanded, and I mean, it's not drawn in, you can't see it, but
And gravel.
is,
That public street, yes, that public street is gravel.
And I don't remember the exact width of it.
right, well, it's,
If we need to expand the width and dedicate more, we just need to know that.
so, it just seems weird that access is from a whole different road, not even associated with. So,
We are trying to make circulation and flow a connection here
okay.
to that street. So we're hoping that it works together.
Right. And currently I know that there is a power line and a fire hydrant and other stuff that's gonna be in there.
Yeah, that's,
Guaranteed.
It's there in the right of way, isn't it?
We've talked to UDOT about that.
Right.
So we know if UDOT requires upgrades along there, that we may have to
Jared, have you guys talked to UDOT about the spacing between your access and that dedicated road? Seems rather, I mean, I know that it's limited, SR9 is limited access road, so you can only have access only certain number of feet. Does that meet the requirement?
I know they don't like it, but there's a historical access where that entrance is.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out how to work with it.
So, and if those parking spots are accessed from public road, are they essentially public parking spots?
No,
Oh, okay, because they're on there.
it'd be on their, it'd be on their property. But they could access parking spots off of the public road, that's not a problem.
He's your neighbor, if you're wondering. All right, any other questions? Then we'll start this checklist.
Yeah, I've got a question. If the zone change for this property is currently in the referendum, correct?
Correct.
What's the point of doing this?
You don't have to have highway resort zoning to do short-term rentals. Under our STR ordinance, you can do you can get a designate, you can do a subdivision with an STR overlay designation, and that's what they're doing, and you can do that based on the existing zoning. So I think my understanding is you're applying under the existing zoning prior to the highway resort zone, or either way, whether it goes through or whether it doesn't go through, you can still do, it still has some residential zoning to it.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
So like in our view, we think we're highway resort zone pending a referendum, but there's no prohibiting factor that says we can't apply for a new zone with an SDR overlay.
Well, and under our ordinance, the way our SDR overlay designation works, you're just applying for a subdivision approval, not a zone change. You're just applying for a subdivision approval with an SDR designation.
Correct.
Yes.
No zone change. All right.
Do this.
Okay, last quick question.
All right, so this is just a couple of blocks from here, we're talking about this property runs along the river, along the block, is that right? Where is this?
This is the property that is right. Have you seen the new pond that they're building? That they enlarged right in the dip?
Just on the other side of the roundhouse, the old birdhouse.
The dome house.
The dome house, yeah.
It's right.
So this is that road that Mike was talking about, this is the house, and that's basically.
Where's the dip?
This line.
The dip is where that white thing is.
Dip's right here.
Yeah.
And the pond that's we've been cleaning out, and getting the cattails out, it's right here. And that where those two pavilions were would be about right here. And then the application is for the property basically above this line. And the boundary, the boundary is this.
About where the trailer park is, you just go straight across there and go back up to the highway. So it doesn't include the last 20 acres of fields down below.
So the river, there's 20 acres of river from the river?
There's 30 acres.
30 acres.
30 acres, yeah, that's right.
So this is above that.
All right, let's go through the checklist. So we have the application form. Statement availability of public utilities. We have water available. There is power at the property. Statement of relative slopes greater than 20% wetlands or a FEMA flood zone in the project. That's designated here. The FEMA flood zone, the ponds, it's all designated on the map.
Yeah.
What did you say, Sean?
It's just our checklist needs to be updated about as quick as we're updating ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then the stamped envelopes. Misty, did you get the envelopes stamped so they could be sent to? Gotcha.
You got that? Check- check off.
3 and 1 electronic copy of proposed subdivision, we have that.
We have the name.
We have the name,
We have the vicinity plan.
vicinity plan, property boundaries are there, dimensions are there, location, ownership of all adjacent tracts of land.
Yes.
Is that listed there? We have the name of the neighbors. Oh, here they are.
They're kind of nice for sitting over there.
They're in.
Or above.
Well,
Okay, you have that.
It's right. Oh,
What are you looking for?
Yeah, which one are you looking at?
the name of the adjacent property owners. We have a name.
It's not on there. I don't have it.
that's the full application. Do they have it on the application?
So I put it in the map, and then
Oh, is it on that?
Does that have the name of the adjacent property owners?
I have I have a list that went along with this map.
The letters are all addressed, by the way.
Oh, there it is. So we have a nice list
We
right
have
here.
the list right here.
Thank you. Okay, topographical contours, we have that. North arrow scale and drawing and date, we have that. Proposed lot and street right-of-way layout and basic dimensions, we do have that. Total acreage, we do have that. It's listed on there. Total acreage is 50-something acres.
51, something, yeah.
Proposed changes to the existing,
Not applicable.
not applicable.
Today's date.
Checked by the planning and zoning administrator. He was with us for our site plan, so. And then the fees, I imagine, Misty, you obtained the fees?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think we have everything. You heard the list we gave Mr. Stout. That's next month, or whenever you decide to do your preliminary plat. Did anyone else see any other things that you wanted to mention to them, or?
I think it's a cool concept with the, where you do a subdivision like that.
Yeah.
Never seen it before, so.
Well,
Well,
I
I've
guess-
seen it, just didn't know it, what it looks like on paper, so that's great.
So this is only concept plan review, there's no approval or motion or anything like that, but you've checked all the boxes, so we'll see the preliminary plats.
We'll post a public hearing on the 26th. It'll be with you for the following.
26th of August, or,
It'll be on August meeting.
yeah, it won't be the 26th.
August 8th meeting, so you would need to have your preliminary plat submitted by the 26th of July.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On our site visit, Mr. Mills mentioned that anything in this potential future phase needs to be identified. This phase right here. That's the potential.
So that he can size storm
Yeah, I
and
mentioned that.
utilities.
And so my question is, can we bring a preliminary plat that indicates that the final plat's gonna be broken into phases? And then, because we only wanna do phase A and see how well we go on the final plat and bring the final plat in. And I know sometimes you can do a preliminary plat, show all of it, or you just show all of it like the other subdivisions.
Are you guys to a position where you can designate for a preliminary plat that future phase, the pad sites on the future phase 2?
I think we could.
If you could do that, just so that we could size, our engineer can confirm the sizing of the utilities, and stuff like that, that would be ideal. You don't have to come back and get final plat approval.
No.
You can get a new preliminary plat if you wanna go a different direction, as long as you put phase lines in there.
So if we put the phase lines in it,
Yes.
Yeah,
Just
for
to-
my end, also, yeah, if you have that level of security, it's helpful. We understand their faces and the economics will drive them to do those, whatever. But that, it's really helpful when we try to analyze the utilities and other things to see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, we appreciate it. All right, so now we're on to chapter 20. Designated and possible recommendation of approval, recommendation to approve or deny the proposed ordinance amending chapter 20. So this was the expansion of chapter 20. Yes, this was moving it from 700
to 150 west.
So Gene talked about why we weren't just putting it across the whole way to Pocketville Road. The reason why we hadn't done that was we were waiting for the general plan, and there was this.
But you notice the general plan, he shows
it all the way.
pink commercial
All the
core
way
all the way
through.
through.
He does.
So, do you wanna,
She's got a real good point. I think while we're
do
doing
you
it, I think we
wanna
ought to just do
craft?
it.
Can we make that amendment with this?
Jay, you have a quick
Some
comment?
reason you don't want to do that, there's that little commercial strip right there by Pocketville Road. And there's just another commercial where Big Ballard is. I'm sure we don't want to designate our park commercial between there.
Well,
We're not designating it
though.
commercial.
We're only making it eligible if for some reason,
But that's our park, city park right
I
there.
understand.
But we're never gonna rezone it commercial.
We don't want to zone that commercial.
Well, we're not, but Jay, we're not rezoning it. We're just making it eligible for that zone. So the city's never
Why would you
gonna
do
want
that
to do that.
in the park?
For purposes of having that zone,
Continuous.
Continuous.
eligibility of that zone kind of line up with what we're designating on our maps in our general plan.
Right.
As keeping one continuous commercial zone all the way along for the purposes of trying to stimulate commercial growth, which will fund sewer and things on a continuous basis along the state road. That's how we're gonna get the backbone of the sewer. It's gonna be on the back of commercial businesses.
And,
I got a question.
and I think the other reason why, as we talked about this change, was they had considered doing that small scale commercial zone, which we could make adjustments to this zone and have this be that zone, but
So there's two things. This one, there was a request. Somebody wanted in that area that hadn't been, and so that's what we were trying to take care of. Now, with the general plan, we were looking at just doing that whole highway frontage as commercial anyways. So do we do this in small bites, or do we do it all at once? I'm okay with going with what the maps are already looking like. If we're allowed to do that after this public hearing, on just that change. That would be the only hard part. We do some now and some next month and do it.
Language, commercial zone designation is deemed acceptable along all areas of for all parcels with SR9 frontage. No other.
By altering that, do we need to have another meeting? And, because if so, then I suggest we put this through so whoever's wanting that commercial zone piece can get to work on what they're doing. And then come back and change it
Ask him,
later.
see if it's a
Time sensitive.
time-sensitive thing.
Who
He's
is
right
it?
there.
Mike,
Yes and no. I mean, if you're gonna zone the whole town commercial in a month, okay, I'm on time frame, but if we're waiting a year, I mean, I want to be opening like a little cafe next summer, and I would like to start right now. I mean, I have like preliminary, building plans started, and I want it going. I have a direction. and I don't wanna just not work towards it. I don't wanna keep you put on hold. So if we're talking months and months and months.
No, this would be something that would be to the plan commission with the revised language for the entire SR9. The eligible area for commercial rezoning is all parcels fronting on SR9, is what the language will say instead of the way it's written right now.
Right.
That will be here next month if we table this and bring it back. And what we can do is we can just simply postpone the public hearing or reopen and continue the public hearing. You don't need to publish it again unless we want to incur the expense a second time. We would hear it, recommend it, and it would go to the council in their August meeting. So the end of August, conceivably, if there's a positive recommendation and approval by the council, it would be, you'd be eligible to apply for commercial zone.
Right, and then we're talking about like a month.
1 month.
Yep.
I can wait, but, I mean, I would hate to have that not pass and we, you know, like on a table, the whole project table because of, I just want half an acre zone. And I would like Old Town to be,
I don't,
Go ahead. I just,
Jane
I
and
think,
then Ellen.
I know that we can postpone a month, but I do agree if there's a risk that it isn't gonna get pursued because something else comes up, comments are made or whatever. The other thing is, we are looking at all these things for building and making things better in the town, and there's this huge weight limit on it, or huge limit, or huge time we have to wait for things to go about, to get done. I think we should move it through and then revisit it. We can rewrite it next month and it'll apply to everybody, but this gets him moving on his project, and, or possibly, if council likes it. That's my suggestion.
and that's fine too. I mean, I'm ready, I have an occupation right now that's killing me,
Can't
that I have to
get
stop
tired.
doing, and I really, I mean, and it's destroying my lungs, and I can't breathe. I want to make jelly for a living, and I'm anxious to be on it. So,
That's all right. Jelly fumes aren't gonna kill you?
it's a sweet way to die though.
Yeah. It's the tasting that will kill you.
No pun intended.
And
I've got a question that's still.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I live on, depending on which map you look at, 50 south or 200 north. It seems to be that it's one of the few, if not the only, streets that parallels SR9 that closely. And so with the potential for, you know, all the properties adjacent to SR9 being eligible for commercial, it seems like our street, and there's only two houses on my side of the street, on the south side, would be directly across the street from commercial zones in a residential area.
Which street are you on?
700.
Well,
No.
no, 50 south or. 200
Well,
north.
it's 700 west, 50 south.
Yeah, yeah. I'm right on the corner across from the.
Okay.
He's in,
Okay. 700 west, 50, yeah, 50 south,
Yeah,
right here,
yeah.
right there. This says 200 north, but that's
So you're
incorrect.
just worried about.
He's just
transitioning
worried about-
Transitioning from commercial to residential right next to it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It doesn't seem like there's, I mean, there may be a couple other streets that are like that, but ours is, yeah, I mean, it's that close to the highway. All the rest of them have big plots of land, you know, your acres.
So if it, there is substantial setbacks, 40 feet, for all commercial from any residential area
plus 60 foot for the road.
to try to protect things like that. Yeah, and if it does, then those wouldn't be eligible for that.
Or you might have,
commercial.
or you might
Yeah.
not have a structure right in front of you, you might have a parking lot or something. like
Yeah.
that. John knows better.
You don't know where to put your little meter in.
Oh, gosh.
You know how hot that topic is in my family.
That's the reason I said it.
I know.
Any other comments from the commission, or is someone ready to make a motion on this? What's?
I do want to make a comment, just because I think it's valid.
Go.
The concerns that he just expressed are my concerns with waiting and trying to put the whole thing together at once.
Sean, did you want to make a motion?
Do I?
The lawyer said you did.
You better. Somebody else can
No, I said I felt somebody.
Somebody's
Oh.
gonna make a
Somebody
motion.
was ready to make a motion.
Well, I'm ready to move this on just as is, and we'll fix it later. I wish it had already been fixed, but, so I'm agreeing with Gene and with the maps and everything else, so. But this is a good start. Let's get Mike moving down the road, and then we'll fix it next month. So I make a motion that we approve this, is it an ordinance?
Recommend approval.
Recommend approval of this
Ordinance amending
ordinance.
chapter 20.03. We don't have an ordinance number, but it'll be assigned when it goes to council.
So stated.
I have a motion to recommend approval on this ordinance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alan beat you. Any further comments? Alan?
Yeah.
Sheen?
Aye.
Cameron? Yes. Dina?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Sorry that's just how it works out for you. We do have stuff to hopefully help mitigate problems like that.
Yeah, it's not that terrible.
All right, so discussion possible recommendation to approve or deny the proposed ordinance amending Bulu Chapter 22 Highway Resort Zone.
With that language right there, minimum square footage to comply with International Residential Code, which is the same language that's in all of our other zoning districts. It just
That was
changes.
the only thing we had to change, wasn't it?
Yep.
So do we have a motion?
Absolutely, because I want to
Can I have a question?
Go ahead.
One
You
other
can, you can
question.
have a question.
What did we amend that down to?
So it's just the
International, that's,
International Residence Codes,
250 square feet.
about 250 square feet at a minimum.
No one's gonna do that, but.
I'll move that we recommend for approval the change to 22.4.1.
I motion to recommend approval. Do I have a second?
a second.
Dina seconds. Any further comments? No? Alan?
Yes.
Gene?
Yes.
Cameron, yes. Dina?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Can we skip to 14?
No, we gotta go to 10. Discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny the proposed ordinance amending Bulu Chapter 8 Town Standards. This is the ordinance to install campground standards to Chapter 8.
You have my copy.
No, I have the copy that you duplicated. You have it in there.
I do.
You gave it back.
I can't find it.
I'm sure you got it in there.
These standards were taken out of the Chapter 29 that was proposed before. Some of the standards that were in Chapter 9, or Chapter 29 were removed. Things like requiring certain size of trees upon initiation were not included in this. Regulations regarding traffic flow were removed, so that they only have to comply with fire code standards, as it's a private drive anyway. The landscaping requirements are left in there, but specific requirements per lot and stuff were also removed from this, from the former Chapter 29. We do have regulations in there regarding lighting. We do have regulations in there regarding campfires. There is regulations limiting the number of units per acre. They are the same as in the former 29.
That was 16, so.
Yeah, 16, correct. There's still the regulations in there about the communal restrooms. and all that stuff.
I need the attorney or somebody to explain 813.10C4 to me. That doesn't make sense to me. Am I missing something?
It's 813.
813-10.C.4 or 6.6. Campgrounds should
Six.
provide electrical outlets of appropriate voltage to all individual unit sites or enforce quiet time. What is that?
I don't have that.
That's
That doesn't
probably,
make sense.
that should probably be a separate,
Separate thing, I would think.
that's a typo. That should probably be the next,
13.4
The version that I'm looking at
doesn't
doesn't
have
say that?
in the,
It's the one that's here.
It's right there on the
81310.
.C.6.
There is a quiet time enforced.
No, we have a different.
And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's written like that. That's probably written like that.
I got you.
So that
if they have
if
their
they don't
generator-
provide electricity, then they have to enforce a quiet time for generators.
Gotcha.
Maybe that can be specified in there.
Yeah, we might want to touch that up.
Yeah. So it's
That
saying
makes sense.
campgrounds shall provide electrical outlets of appropriate voltage to all individual sites or enforce a quiet hour for generators between 10 PM and 7 AM. That's,
four generators, or just quiet time and stuff.
well,
I think
there's
there's
a
a
quiet
separate
time in
sec-
general
There's a
too.
separate section for quiet time.
Yeah.
That's what made me question, I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Quiet
And maybe
time
that
for
just needs to be-
business Is
How come
different
mine
than
don't go
that
up that high?
too.
You're there.
I think it's 10:30 to 6
That's right.
Which one?
is our business quiet time. We require it more strict.
It's not. I must have an older one, 'cause it only goes to
You're good.
813.8.
0.8. Yeah, you're
Just we have two different copies.
That's the one we have.
Yeah.
You gotta get on the ordinance. That's why.
I got on Hulu.
Yeah, that's why. You gotta get on the today's
Oh,
meeting.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah, 813.9 says a quiet time from 10 PM. I think it's specified like that to ensure that generators are included in that quiet time. I think that's why it's stated twice.
That's not a huge
That's not a huge
amendment.
thing.
We should
No.
probably add something to explain what he's talking about, right?
I think so. I think you're right, yeah.
Maybe something along the lines, campgrounds should provide electrical outlets of appropriate voltage to all individual units / sites not using generators. Or,
And, 8.13.10.d, there is a typo. It's, landscape strip is required between the road right of way, not light of way.
Road right of way and development.
Yeah.
It says right away.
It's in the
Cover
next,
version of-
it's, no,
Oh.
go down a couple
Oh,
more
right of
lines.
way.
Yeah.
Where at?
The very
Just
last
a little typo.
line on 10.b.
Chapter 8 we're working on.
Yeah.
Hey.
I've got like 3 different versions.
I'm terrible at spelling.
Which is terrible because
This one ought to be good because that's what we had. That was table.
Road light of way? Hey, I think they got a light on.
it meets the light
Hmm.
ordinance.
that was the one I was working on, chapter 8. This has
Don't shine it down.
general provisions.
What are you looking for?
That's not
Okay.
what this is.
All right, good.
So,
Shoot.
do we just need to add that referring to generators?
There's another
Yeah, I
one
think
missing
so.
somewhere.
Or we can take it out. We could take it out and define quiet time differently to include generators.
Copy that kid.
You've already got quiet
Wrote it, so-
time mentioned, so does it really need to be?
Well, quiet time is from 10 to 7, so I really don't see why you would need anything else.
A person coming in camping might think that means partying though and not my generator.
Not my
runs the
generator.
power.
Yeah, but that's,
To me, that's quiet time.
Well, not all of them. Some of them are quiet.
Well,
You know,
if they're below so many decibels, they can have them anyway.
and maybe the thing to do is take that out and define quiet time better.
That's probably best.
Do we have quiet time developed in there somewhere?
Yeah.
Definition?
Yep. 8-13-9D.
But we're still,
That's what I think you should do.
Just one point on generators, it's not only noise, but the emissions.
Good point.
We don't want to use propane.
Other than that, I like it.
and you have 3.
I think you're right. I think that's a place to do it, is in the noise. Can we move this forward though without?
We've got a couple different versions.
Are you guys looking at the one that's for the ordinance 2018-21? Because if you are, that's different, that's why you guys are confused.
I think Sean, I think they're going back to the chapter 8 where we covered all the other stuff.
Because the one that's, no, it's not that
Well,
one.
I know this one's wrong because it's.
That's the one.
8.13, and it's not 8.13, it's 8.14.
Yeah, I think we.
So I know this one's wrong, but this is the
But
one
this is right.
this is the one I reviewed, because this is the paper I,
But that's not the one that's on the
I know.
board thing. And you were just looking at the one we're gonna talk about later, because it was supposed to be this before this was this.
Well, that's the one I printed off.
Oh,
This is the one I printed off. It was given to
We
me.
have to renumber to the 21, but that's what I'm saying.
so the motion will be to.
This is the same one. This is the same one.
Well, then let me tell you the changes are.
That's the same one. That's the same one we're looking at right here.
That's,
Right,
okay.
okay. So that one is the same, but it's going to, the numbers are gonna have to be changed.
The numbers will have to be changed when we do the other changes to the conditional
One is
use.
happening before the other, so if you're gonna approve this one, it has to be done with this one.
Okay, let me quickly go through the.
Yeah, so your concerns,
questions I have.
go.
8.13.9A, providing park rules maybe, instead of saying that they have to have a copy of the standards. If I was going to a campground, I don't want somebody to hand me this paper here,
They won't.
so.
The standards are just a deal. It's like any campground you go to, you agree to do certain things, a checklist that you go
And
through.
the rules and stuff, so do we need to say standards or copy of the standards set forth in this section to all? It sounds like you're gonna hand them this.
I
We
don't,
just clarify, that's all I'm saying.
clarification maybe. I don't read it that way. It just is your standards are set out in
Okay.
a little checklist for people that come to camp.
The
I agree.
next one, B, I think we need to put exceptions provided in 8.13 or unless it's gonna be a different number, but limited commercial habitation. Because it says 180 days, but then there will be people that may be working there, and we need to allow that exception in there. Because I already know that the RV park over here is making those exceptions.
That's a good point.
Whether they're complying or not with our law, we ought to put it in here.
A lot of campgrounds have a camp tender that lives
Yeah.
there permanently.
So would that already be covered in the zone? Because limited commercial habitation is allowed in the zone that this would be in.
I'm just clarifying, just putting a clarifying.
Yeah, I'm
sentence.
just asking.
It could
Do we
be
need to
that.
clarify it, or is limited commercial habitation is already allowed in the zone?
I think it'd be good to put what Sean's got.
Just clarify it
Just
in
put
the
exceptions
standards?
provided
I think that, okay.
in limited
Put
commercial
with it.
habitation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most people aren't gonna see this anyway. It's just for the people that are running it.
Yeah.
You had a question, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I don't, do you guys have standards for amplification for music, for sound amplification?
Yeah.
Yes, we have noise standards. Yes, ma'am. The noise standards?
Campgrounds.
We have general noise standards for the town.
Who I'm talking about that, I'm talking about for the campground.
No.
No, not specific to the campground. They would have to just follow the noise ordinance for the town. No special ones for
So if someone
campgrounds.
was having a loud party or something like that, you'd call, the sheriff's department, they'd come out and they would cite them for a violation of our noise ordinance.
Yeah, I'm just from.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Do you allow that for amplification or just, you tell them it's designated?
I'm not sure exactly what our noise ordinance says. I would have to look that up. I apologize, I don't have that answer. I'll look for it though. Go ahead, Sean.
On C, I just changed manager to staff because
Down at the house.
unless
Yeah.
they didn't designate everybody as a manager, that's kind of hard to do. I think on D, I think our commercial quiet time is different. Do we want to have it from 10 to 7 or I think it's 10:30 to 6 is quiet time. So can we make that similar to whatever our commercial is?
I would think they should match, but
10 o'clock in the middle of summer is pretty early.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think we should make them match. What is commercial? I didn't know we had one.
One says recreation, vehicle park sanitation, and that's Utah Administrative Code, and then the other says you've got to have a proper collection and disposal of refuse, garbage, and litter. Is that already covered in that one, or is that both one? I mean, that's just a cleanup question.
So is the sanitation more to do with wastewater, not garbage? I don't know. I've never looked at that.
just take the word major out and just leave it arterial.
We could just, it says campground shall not be accessed from residential streets, and that's the only.
No, I'm okay with that, as long as we have something there.
Because that would also include, your road off the highway there, because that's not a major road either. They wanted to do a campground there.
Where?
Joe's.
Well, yes, it is. That was a highway, and it's never been changed.
Yeah, well, we can change that to campground should not be accessed to residential streets. I'm good with that. That's good enough clarification for the purposes of that ordinance.
The next section, does the fire code mention anything about ingress, egress for a campground?
I'm sure it does.
It does for campgrounds, and it does for, in general, if.
Just a general standard.
Just general standard for widths of roads and number of units.
Distance between.
Okay, I was just wondering what those are. The next one, BII, on-street parking is prohibited. Is that gonna be necessary? I mean, what's,
Private roads.
it's if they have roads going in there, and like, let's say, Jack's place there, and that's all that, or you saying you can't park right there on that road, or? is there-
Well, if you go over to Pike Road, it's there right now, they do not have any parking on the road.
They don't have any ability to either.
Well, I know that, but unless you're gonna have 40-foot roads, you're not gonna be able to put parking on the road.
So do you wanna you think there should be a stipulation in there that says on-street parking is prohibited on narrow roads, or just leave it like that? What, I'm just trying to
I think we would just leave it that way. You don't want, if you get people parking on the road, pretty soon they're parking on both sides, and then you can't get an ambulance through, you can't get a fire truck through, or anything else.
I just see wherever you say prohibited, then there's always somebody that wants an exception, and do we need to, list all the exceptions, or we just?
I mean, I see where you're coming from, because someone could say, I want to put parallel parking on this designated parallel parking spot on the side of the road. And that's not really what this is trying to.
But if he's gonna do that, he's gonna have to make the roads.
Correct, they'd have to be designated parking.
I camp a lot, and every campsite requires you to pull into your campsite. And they specifically state no parking on the road, and then they have overflow parking to accommodate extra cars.
I think that's okay, it's just.
And the utilities, 1813-10C III, we're looking at, required to provide a treatment system subject to, I was just gonna have Utah State Department of Environmental Quality. So just, it says state.
Utah State Department of Environmental Quality.
Yeah, that's all. And then the next 3 sections, below that, there's a lot of redundancy on whether those sections need to be there or not. For example, the water service agreement with the water district, those don't, that doesn't need to say anything about septic sanitation gradient equivalent dwelling unit per acre, because that's all the sanitation, wastewater's dealt with through the Department of Environmental Quality. And,
Well, it's dealt with by the health department if it's a septic.
right.
It depends on how many you
If
have.
it's a.
For the campground, it's going to absolutely go through the state. And
you're saying that, we can remove this greater than or equivalent to 1 dwelling per acre. Provided that because the agencies will dictate how much they can do and not pollute.
So if they come back with a study that says they can do a greater density, which we already have density set at so many units per acre anyways, so they're not gonna go over that. Or if they come back and say you can't have that greater density because the saturation is so up, then that's gonna limit them, not what we put here according to the water district.
The only other thing I'd say in addition to that is that they've got to do 2 places or 3 places where we know that they're not going to include anything, a specific amount of land in some use. If there is a campground, it's going to have to be a rate, they change their standards.
I agree.
We just put a period after, either we remove it or we put a period after water conservancy district.
Well, it's saying the same thing as 3. It's just saying campground is required to water treatment. A treatment. I don't have wastewater treatment system. So you would remove them? Yeah.
Okay, oh gosh. No more. Landscaping. That first section is,
We're at landscaping. 1310D.
Okay, this one is redundant with, 10A, Roman numeral 4 and 5. Back on the page before, it says the same exact thing there. In fact, it's exactly copied. So do we want it there, or do we want it under landscape?
Well, no, because this part talks about 50 foot.
It's the exact same wording except for one says setbacks.
I think the only reason to keep it is if you end up allowing campground in a different zone.
We need communal restrooms. I was just gonna suggest it if necessary, but we'll just leave it. And then fires if permitted, I would just change the should to a may. But that doesn't matter. What do you guys think?
I said that should probably stay should, in my opinion.
It just seems like we've got to enforce something that maybe we don't have the ability to enforce. And if we suggest it with a may, they could do it at that. We don't have to go around and enforce everything. Fire is.
Or you can make a fire fund and enforce that.
Well, I mean, it's got should, it's just you that may, isn't it? Yeah, it's not mandatory. It says shall, that's the end of the category. Should or may is permissive, shall is
Should, okay, it's the same thing.
I think you're covering the section, which is basically that the owner is responsible for the fires that get out of control for burning the house. First, it doesn't matter if the campsite does it, it's the owner who's responsible, so.
So I think Sean has a motion to make.
What?
Well, I highlighted all these changes.
Okay.
And put comments on.
On your iPad?
Yeah,
Wow.
I can do that. I didn't know I could do that, but I can. I think every day.
I'm pretty impressed with it.
Sean has a motion on it.
And is that on your copy or?
It was on the, I don't know if it's updated, but it's on the.
It will update that one.
for recommendation of approval or denial of proposed ordinance amending moving chapter 21. So this is the amendment to 21. We've already made a recommendation that we feel campground, or that RVs are permissible in 22. So do we want to make this recommendation as well, or let council decide, or you guys feel about that? It's 21. Is the changing of the location.
I think I'm okay with it as long as we amend it to say east 295 as was brought up earlier.
Yeah. 295 east.
295 east, yes. Yeah, specifies.
And we'll have to decide if it's still necessary.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion, and if you're all right with that, sir.
Perfectly good with
I
that.
move for approval of the changes in chapter 21 with the addition of east added after 295.
I have a motion to recommend approval. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. Alan?
Yes.
Yes.
Cameron, yes. Tina?
Yes.
Sean? Yes. I say we skip 13
And 12.
and 12. And we'll move to item number 14. Do I have a motion? No commissioner comments? I'm going to skip that one. All right.
I'll move to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Council.